Good morning, everybody. All right. Hope everyone's doing well. I can't complain. Apologize about the food and the eating. I'm hungry. So, very, very hungry. Okay. Now we're going to do this, 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 this. All right. Gaming is in such a bad state, guys. Such a bad state. But we should not be shocked. We should definitely not be shocked. So, papists have been on the timeline making a fool of themselves. Taco Talks, with his usual nonsense in the timeline, has been just doing the usual stupid stuff that he does. No one's entirely shocked by these people. But it can't be helped that a lot of them are, like, just insufferable. Like, it would be one thing if a lot of these people were, like, good faith interlocutors and they debated and they discussed and they didn't misrepresent your view. But the problem with a lot of these people is they just can't help it. They just misrepresent your view every step of the way. So some random dude wanted to defend libertarianism with me. He wanted to do a debate. So we're going to review one of this guy's video. So that's going to be fun. We'll review his video and see if it's worthwhile. So let's get going.
The Nations of Sanity Project presents the solution to finally and fully abolish slavery.
So immediately, the biggest problem right off the bat is this is a denial of the fall of mankind. You're not going to abolish slavery. Really depends on how you define slavery. You're not really going to completely and totally eliminate slavery ever. It's not possible.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't we already do that? Well, we did and we didn't. And what I
Statism.
mean by that is we didn't abolish slavery properly. You see, there's two basic problems with the abolition of slavery. The first problem is we only abolished a very narrow definition of slavery.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of all the definitions of slavery, you see. And who determines what is slavery and what is not slavery? Well, that's me. Anything that is in relation to the state is immediately going to be a slave. That means you're slave to the state. If there's any taxation at all, you're a slave. You're a slave, I tell you. Are we not supposed to be slaves to Christ? Are we going to abolish being slaves to Christ? See where you say, "Oh, we haven't we're going to abolish all slavery." Well, what do you mean by all slavery? Being a slave to Christ is the best thing that you can do.
Both the transatlantic slave trade and the plantation system involved owning people as property and forcing them to do labor. Now, that very specific form of slavery was abolished, but the underlying ethos of claiming a right over people that is akin to property ownership has continued. Every
No, it's not. See, he's already conflating ideas. The idea of having control over somebody or having authority over somebody is not the same as understanding them as property, right? There's a distinction there. One can still recognize that a human has innate value that is greater than, say, a piece of land, um, which is a property, right? The understanding of property here is, I think, being massively conflated.
government on this planet to this day continues to exert that very claim of ownership over the
We got 10 people listening in right now. Appreciate you guys showing up. Please go ahead and share and like and all that nonsense. It really helps the stream. So slavery.
people within the geographical region that it claims ownership over. They claim an ownership over our labor when they tax us a percentage that they decide. They claim an ownership over our body and what we put in it. Things like drug laws are a very obvious.
What do I do for work? I mostly work on people's websites. I help cybersecurity integration. I help with network engineering stuff. I help with back end setup for businesses like their cloud infrastructure, but mostly website stuff. We do some. I do. My company does some digital marketing, um, and we've seen some decent success with that. It's it's not perfect, but it's doing good enough. Um, yeah, we do a lot of stuff. Basically, we're the IT guys that small businesses can afford if they can't afford a full-time business, if they can't afford a full-time person. So that's what we do.
Example of a very direct and an overt violation of our right over our own bodies. And
So I think there's a massive problem here. There's a presupposition that taxes are inherently one-sided. Ah, profound. How are you doing, brother? So taxation is not one-sided. You agree to do taxation. By agreeing to using public services, the fact that you use any public services at all means you have implicitly agreed. I'm sorry. You've implicitly agreed to the taxation structure of that country. Now, does that mean taxation is always fair? Does it mean the taxes that they do levy are fair? No, it does not mean that. It doesn't mean that we should just blindly accept every tax that comes our way. No, it does not mean that. Does it mean that there aren't forms of taxation that are more problematic than others? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What it does mean is that the idea of taxation itself is not theft. It is not using your body against itself. Okay? I have a problem with income tax because one, I think the income tax doesn't work that well. And two, uh, I would have less of a problem with income tax if the government had a balanced budget. It does not. So, but that is a problem for the government. That's a problem with that we don't actually have good levers of control over the government. So your actual complaint is the system of government. What economic system do you prefer to pair with monarchism? I mean, well, I mean, just I think that the form of government you need some level of open markets with some state oversight over certain industries for protectionism purposes. It's that simple. So whatever you want to label that as, it's fine. But it's the same system of economics that we've had since the dawn of empires. Since the dawn of empires, there has always been semi-open markets with some regulatory oversight by the administrative class. to protect industries, to protect certain things, to levy taxation, whatever it is, right? There's always been a level of that. And so that's my position. My position is very simple. I tend to like open markets, particularly internally, with good, strong protectionist policies mixed with some strong regulatory policies to keep businesses and government keeping the interests of businesses and merchants focused on the people and on the nation. So whatever that is, I don't even know what you would call that. Like, I don't even know if there's a single term you'd call it. I just think that it's common sense. The idea of like free market capitalism is retarded. It doesn't exist. So hey, OZ, how you doing? So yeah, anyways, libertarian so far is kind of being incoherent. He's just kind of asserting that we're slaves. Kyrie, the merchant class always tries to make things in favor of them. That's the issue. It is an issue, which is why you need strong regulatory bodies, and you need those regulatory bodies to be controlled by an aristocratic class or the monarch. And the reason is because the aristocratic class's wealth must be, by necessity, rooted in the land and the people. Because when the merchant class is unrestrained, you see what happens here in America. In America and in much of the world, the merchant class runs rampant over their nations and completely destroys nations, completely destroys people groups. They don't care because ultimately, what to a merchant, there is no borders, right? And that's the biggest problem.
Just the general ethos of government's rule over people is essentially the same ethos that slave owners and slavers would claim over the people that they enslaved. It is.
Yeah. Imagine being a Brit. Imagine being a Brit, seeing your country at its peak power and influence and might under totalitarian kings when the parliament was far less powerful. And then think, we want more of this democracy stuff. We want more power in oligarchs. We want more power in a parliamentary system. We want more power in the hands of individuals while we watch our nation descend into chaos and irrelevancy. What is the libertarian solution to the Muslim grooming gang? Oh, we just get guns and eventually somehow we'll just all defend ourselves? The Pakistanis don't care about individual rights. Like 50 of them will show up to your house. You'll get 2 shots off, and then they'll swarm you and kill you, and then grape your entire family. Like they don't like human life for some nations and cultures is so low. They don't care if 2 or 3 people are shot. It just enrages them. They don't care. They just get more pissed, and then they'll just do worse and worse things to you. And then they'll assign collective guilt onto you.
Is a violation of our individual self-ownership, and that root level of slavery was never abolished. It was simply rebranded into a kind of free-range slavery where we are no longer forced to do any specific type of labor, but any labor we do, the ownership for the fruits of our labor.
No, the ownership of the fruits of your labor is your own. You then choose to engage in a nation that has laws and government and has tax-funded, public-funded things. If you don't like it, you as a libertarian have the right to renounce your citizenship and go try and F off and find some unclaimed piece of land. Good luck. That's where your theory leads you. People collectively agreed to live under these systems. Okay. Now you can think the systems are corrupt now. You can think the systems are not the way they should be set up. That's totally fine. I agree on some level with that. But to just simply say, oh, this is unjust because they're taking the fruits of my labor, you agreed to that. You took the job in a nation knowing that in that nation, your labor goes towards certain services. Oh, but I didn't sign a contract. Yes, you did. What do you mean? You chose to live here. When you turned 18 and became a sovereign citizen, you chose to live here. But I didn't get to choose to live in this country. And before you were 18, before you were an emancipated adult, your parents had the right to make these decisions on your behalf. And their parents did for them, and their parents did for them, and their parents did for them. See how that works, libertarian? You signed the contract by proxy. You agreed to the terms of service by choosing to remain a citizen of that country. At any point in time, you can run off and go renounce your citizenship. You can tear up all of your paperwork. You can go F off to the middle of the wilderness and hope that whatever nation claims land over that never finds you. You're more than welcome to go and do that. You won't. Because you enjoy the fruits of the society that developed all this stuff. You enjoy the fruits of the public services, of the road. Yes, the roads. I know libertarians get all like, they start foaming at the mouth over roads. But yes, you use the roads. You use the public services. The street sweeper. Right? Now, again, you can complain that the government is not utilizing the taxes in an efficient way, that they're not doing their due diligence, that they are actually negligent. Totally arguable. And I might even agree with most of those criticisms. But your position here that it's theft does not follow.
Is claimed by our governments, and they decide what percentage of it we have to pay to them and what percentage of it we can keep to try to feed and house ourselves and do whatever else. So there's a certain degree of freedom that we are afforded that the more traditional slaves weren't afforded. We don't have literal chains around our legs, but the fact of the matter is we are no more free than the slaves of old. And
yes, you're right. We are no more free. Guys, you're no more free than the African slaves brought over in chains. You're no more free than they are. It's all an illusion. See how ridiculous the libertarian ethos is, guys? See how just ludicrous it is? I need to start cutting up these live streams into actual individual videos, because this is just laughable. This is laughable. This is the most embarrassing response I have ever seen. Libertarians are literally so low tier, guys. I just so low tier. In fact, there is someone that I might want to look up here and see if they have any content.
the ownership that our governments claim over us is essentially the same at the root level. And
it's not the same. Not even close to the same at the root level. What do you mean by the root level? You can't just claim that and then just walk away. Oh my lord. You guys are about to get crash out, Nicholai, here. You're gonna crash out.
The other problem with how slavery was abolished was it was done under the illegitimate authority of these ruling governments. These same
the fact of the matter is that we didn't just understand the innate principles undergirding it all. We just needed to end slavery by recognizing that everybody's a rugged individual and that governments don't exist. The fact that the governments recognize this is illegitimate in the first place. That's what he's literally saying. It's ridiculous. The Enlightenment and its consequences have been disaster for the human race. So true, profound being. So true. Oh my gosh, it's just embarrassing, isn't it?
Same governments that have basically continued free range slavery, as I call it. These are the governments who have abolished this very specific type of slavery. So not only have we abolished a very narrowly defined form of slavery and allowed other forms of slavery that involve the same root concept to continue, but the very same criminal organizations that are continuing these other forms of slavery are the
Nicholai, it's rugged. Isn't that what I said? I'm pretty sure that's what I said, Compendium. Downvote! Oh, yeah. Well, he's very small creator. I don't want to be too mean, but okay, I'll downvote. Criminal implies that there is an objective standard that you're appealing to. Whose standard is it? By whose standard is it criminal? Sorry, it was a bad joke. I have no idea. Like, guys, you got to remember, I am like a boomer. I may look young, but I'm like a boomer. I've been married for 10 years. I've had a child for almost as long. I've been like completely removed from like jokes and like humor and Zoomer humor and all this other stuff for way too long to be able to understand half this stuff. Especially internet humor. It just like totally goes over my head. It's rugged contemporary. Boomer in Korea. So true. So true. Thank you, Ekthys. By the way, guys, how are you doing? I hope you're all doing well. Yeah, so what do we like what is there to say like beyond this low tier polemical stuff? It's so lazy. This is why libertarianism is a joke, and I'm sure if someone clips this and puts the right title on it, libertarian gets destroyed by Nicholai, they'll find some you'll get a bunch of libertarians that come in and like become insufferable. But we'll see. This is the guy. By the way, this guy wants to debate me. Never needed a liturgical worship more than I did this week. Good. Get going. Hit it up.
Ones that abolished the old form of slavery. So
It's
we
Monday
didn't
here,
abolish
so.
slavery properly because we didn't do it fully, and we did it through the authority of organizations that don't really have any authority and are in.
They don't have any. Guys. The British government is illusory. It has no authority over this guy. It doesn't really have any authority. He can ignore them. What are they going to do about it? What can they do about it? That's essentially what he's saying. It's hilarious. Libertarianism is arguably exactly what Profound Bean said in the comments. I'm going to avoid too many special words because I've heard that YouTube has been pretty strictly cracking down on some of that. So,
fact, criminal in exactly the same way as the slave owners that they have since criminalized. So the Nations of Sanity Project presents a solution that will fully abolish slavery.
Let me guess. Guys, let me guess. He's going to abolish the state.
And it will do it through the proper method. The Nations of Sanity Project is based on the assertion that crime and law, as well as our rights and freedom, should be defined by the concept of individual self-ownership and established as the terms of the peace agreement. Essentially, what we're saying is we need to make this principle of individual self-ownership the law, and we need to.
Who enforces the law? We need to make this the law. Crashing out, guys. I'm crashing out. Lolberts. You're dumb. You're dumb, Lolberts. You just done dumb. You're so dumb. They're so dumb. Oh my lord, bro, you're dumb. No one has the right to decide what isn't a crime. But then you're contradicting yourself, bro. Oh. My sanity leaves me every day, guys. This world. I have enough stress in my life as it is, with money and everything else. Do I really need to respond to idiots? Idiots! Oh, guys. Lord have mercy. All right. NAP, non-aggression principle, means don't initiate violence. Wow, profound. Defending life, liberty, and property is a reaction to aggression. Activists abolish humans, therefore no more suffering. Truth nude. Okay. How do you enforce the non-aggression principle onto others? It is a principle. That means it's voluntarily adopted by other people. Some people might not agree that the non-aggression principle is intuitive or innate. Furthermore, you have to root the non-aggression principle in a higher standard. It can't be the highest standard. Because who gets to define non-aggression? Well, they say that defending life, liberty, or property is a reaction to aggression, therefore not aggression. By definition, it is defensive in nature and not, therefore it can't be violence. That's what they would say. But it really doesn't work because, again, who enforces NAP and determines if someone is broken NAP, right? It's completely subjective. It's entirely like I could perceive some people perceive as words as aggression. Insane leftists think words can be aggression because it can cause mental harm, and they believe that mental harm can be as damaging as physical harm. How is the libertarian in just the NAP going to claim that they don't have a legitimate grievance or a legitimate argument? Doesn't work. This is where this gets a little touchy, so I'll be careful here. Is killing yourself is ending your own life aggression? And do you have a right to it? Because society has determined that no, you do not, in fact, have a right to end your own life. I mean, functional societies have determined that. When you try and jump from a window or jump from a balcony, or if you try and jump off a ship to like just drowned or something like that, the police will stop you and try and save you. If you put a weapon up against your head and you have your finger on the trigger, the police will try and stop you. You do not have a right to end your own life. Now, he's arguing you do. By his own argument, you'd have to say he does. If you're aggressing against yourself, Does someone else have a right to defend on the behalf of your rational self? If you're being if you're mentally ill, if there's a mentally ill person on the street who does not have the rational capability to understand that they are aggressing against someone, how do you hold them accountable? You just get to kill them arbitrarily because they're not completely rationally there? See where when you have such a reductive principle, your entire thing starts degrading and falling apart? That's because humans, by our very nature, are hierarchical, and the church reflects that. Christ and the Godhead reflects it as well. So, yeah. Octavian, how are you doing, brother? I'm glad to see you here. We're reacting to a libertarian, and you missed a crash out. I'm gonna be honest. You missed a crash out. This guy caused me to crash out. I'm be real. Who owns you? God. God. But he allows some degree of self um actualization within us. You just said society, bro. That's a contradiction of terms. What governs your society? Is the only thing that governs it the non-aggression principle? Okay, if that's the case, I'm going to pick apart your society in about all of 5 seconds. How's it going, Nicholai? I just woke up because I went to liturgy without sleeping that night before. I need to rest before work. God bless. It's it's Monday here, so I'm doing some work on the side of my screen here while we're listening to this and responding to this. Most of it is just me staring at the thing while it loads and make sure any of the changes I implemented actually take effect. And then I do it all over again for the next couple hours, which is very annoying. Anyone who's dealt with that kind of stuff, it's very tedious, very long process, especially when it's the download speeds and the upload speeds are really slow today for some reason. So wow, guys, he posted this video thinking that he really just said something super profound. Huh. Well, that's the guy that wants to debate me, guys. What do you think? What do you think, guys? He wants to debate me. Do you think that this will turn out very well for him? I don't think so. I don't think so. What is anarcho-capitalism? So anarcho-capitalism is some sort of like pseudo-libertarian ideology, but it takes it to its extreme, where the only thing that really exists is individuals and their ability to protect their own property. There's no government, nothing. It is all voluntary contractual exchanges. So, yeah, that's what anarcho-capitalism is. I'm trying to find. So the other day, somebody sent me. Okay, so I'm late watching on 2X to catch up. Wayward Ranger, glad to see you here, brother. God bless you. You're gonna see a crash out. You're gonna see a crash out. Okay, so that is done. Let us pull up Taco Talks, who decided to be dummy on the timeline again. It's a nice short one, so we'll get past this one real quick, guys. And again, if there's anything you guys want me to respond to, please feel free to let me know down below. Just give me the title of the video, and we'll get to it. Or you can just link it in X or whatever else. So.
One true church that Jesus started.
No, we are the original church that Jesus started. No, you're wrong. We're the original. No, all of you are a bit wrong, actually. We are the original.
Why does the Church of Christ have a weird accent? It's this guy is like not right in the head. There's something wrong with him. Literally, I think there's something like just not right in the head on this guy. The way he acts, the way he responds, the way he can't seem to understand arguments, and that he's so it tells me it speaks massive levels of autism. And I say this with somebody my brother who has Asperger's and has been considered to be on the spectrum. He just doesn't seem to be able to understand anything outside of very narrow framework that he's developed, and anything that breaks that framework, he loses his mind. Like, he's just not capable of conceiving of it. It's just like he's been boxed into it, and that's very common with certain people that have those sort of issues. It is funny because he actually did a decent job I mean, he did an okay job, but he still leaves out key things in order to try and just dismiss the argument. I mean, essentially his video was just him going, "Nothing you say matters." That's essentially it. But yeah, I mean, he did an okay job, but he doesn't understand that. See, it's meaningless to him. He doesn't care. He's built his online cult following, and they're going to support him no matter what.
Church. You know, we can trace the apostolic succession back to
So what he's doing right now is he's making the really stupid argument that, many people make the same claim, so therefore none of them can be true. It's a dumb, lazy argument.
Always a successor of Peter, and so because of that, all this good news. One here we are, the one Jesus started. Our church is the one that Jesus started. It wasn't yours.
So notice faith, Christ alone. Faith alone, Christ. Faith, Christ alone. That's a horrible shirt. That's a horrible shirt. It doesn't you can't actually understand what he's trying to say. Like the way it's set up doesn't give a coherent thought. It doesn't express anything. Horrible shirt. Horrible shirt.
It wasn't yours for sure. It was our church. Our church is the one that Jesus started. I am part of the original church. You guys all realize, though, that
here comes the stupidest argument I've ever seen.
None of you are the original church. You guys understand that the church is the immortal body of believers for all of time, and that back in those times they had different branches, different churches that were breaking off within the first year of Jesus resurrecting, right?
Yeah, no, that. Oh, guys, this heretic sect broke off and created their own micro church that died off within 10 years. Like that's his argument. The church has a clear continuity of belief you can follow. There's a clear continuity of belief. If you can't follow it because you're too lazy to do the work, I can't help you. Like, he's just like, at this point, Taco's too lazy to do the work. He's just too lazy. He's more interested in producing these really low tier slop videos than actually doing the hard work of like trying to understand the argument of the other side. It's just lazy. Your brother is not a unique case. Unfortunately, a lot of us develop frameworks, and once they're broken, we crash out. I'm assuming that's what you meant. I do that as well, but I try and be a little bit more intelligent. Yeah, everybody, but the thing is it's not unique to only autistic people. It's just autistic people tend to like be extra stubborn in those things. If like if something doesn't fit the narrative I have created, I try and look at a broad spectrum. Yeah. And it says, because I knew that my entire life narrow was going to get destroyed once I become Orthodox, I told myself I don't care what I believe. Okay. Even if I disagreed with it on its face, that helped me as a, yeah, that's fine. What would this goober even say to early church sensitivity to heresy and general false doctrine? I know, it's crazy. Silent, what's up, Nicholai? Nothing much. We're reacting to a bunch of nonsense. The beginning was mostly this Lobotarian who was just completely insufferable. Then, you know, Taco talks with his really bad, stupid argumentation.
We are the ones who decide the point because
okay, yeah, just it like his videos are just insufferably. The thing is, they're not even that intelligent, and he has the smugness of somebody who thinks themselves far smarter than they actually are. Is actually amazing that somebody so dumb, and I like, normally I don't say this about people, actually. Like, I don't think a lot of people are dumb. I think a lot of them can be very smart and just like stuck in their frameworks. But this guy's legitimately just dumb. He's either dumb or he is like a liar. He's an author, apparently. Why should I trust his authorship on anything? It's kind of weird. Weird. Sid, that's right. She had an interesting engagement with somebody recently. Ted, the ex-girlfriend, continues his retardation of being a salty ex-girlfriend. So if any of you guys don't know, which some of you guys might not know the lore, so I'll explain the lore. I'll lore drop for you. Ted was formerly Orthodox, probably about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And then on Easter, he announced his apostasy from the Orthodox faith, saying that he was going to become Roman Catholic. And part of the reason why was that he was he felt like he couldn't be a Western man and be Orthodox. Like, that's essentially what he was saying. I can't be Western and Orthodox. So because I can't hold to my niche Western heresies in Orthodoxy, I'm going to throw a temper tantrum and not listen to my spiritual father and not get off the internet like he told me to, and not read the materials that he told me to. And I'm going to go throw a temper tantrum at all the Ortho bros that ruined Orthodoxy for me. That was him. He literally had a massive crash out. And, I mean, massive crash out. I knew people who knew him personally. I knew people who knew him personally, and they said that towards the end, he would question why they had to go to service multiple times a week, because he says that's not the bare minimum. He says that's not like like he would complain that Rome, you have your weekly mass attendance, and that's what you needed to do. But for him, it was never about like growing in the faith. For him, it was about what do I have to do, right? Very Western way of thinking. And ever since then, he's basically created like history out of his asshole. Like, he just pulls it out of his asshole. And just like says, look at here, I pulled this out of my asshole and now it's true. Like, that's him now. Like, that's all he does. Ted is insufferable. Like, you can go through his timeline. He just obsesses about orthodoxy, especially 2 years ago. He was particularly bad. He goes through spurts now. He goes through spurts where he's just constantly whining about orthodox and lies. And by the way, this is a guy that was baptized into the church. He knows better. He knows better. And he still blatantly lies about orthodoxy. So he's just a dishonest person. Sid gets so much hate on this app. It's insane. Sid gets so much hate on this app. And then, of course, we had this pop up in the timeline today, guys. So we're going to cover this real quick. Did Patriarch Kirill say that he supports abortion? No. He said the church's position is that abortion ought to be banned. But, asterisk, he was saying in a commentary on a law that was to be considered by the Russian parliament, or the Duma, was put forward. And that law said that they wanted to consider the father and the consent of the father before a woman can get an abortion. And he said that that law would help prevent more abortions. He said, so therefore, it would be a good law to try and pass it outside of the possibility of fully banning abortion, which the church supports. The church has been advocating for a full banning on abortion for decades. For decades. Well, I mean, since forever, really. But since the Russian Federation's creation, they've been doing that. We had, for some reason, a Latinizer came out here, and I think it was Jacob that sent me this, so let me see. He did not. Let me see if I have this. Jordan Belfort, one of the Latinizers, and I said I was never making another video about Latinizers again, but I didn't say I wouldn't respond to them occasionally on live stream. Decided to post a video here trying to claim that Bryce J teaches what they believe, which of course is ridiculous. It's not true. So we're going to end this. Stop sharing, or stop sharing that. Open that. There we go. So
works, for example, like in Against Julian, synagogue.
So the first thing that you should be very skeptical of when you're listening to somebody is there's very, very little chance that Bryce J only had 33 seconds of commentary on this. This is very likely a very narrow cutout of a longer conversation that he had. So therefore, I would be highly, highly skeptical of anything he says here. Not because I don't necessarily, I might agree with what he says, but it's probably taken out of context to manipulate what is actually being said. Okay? So that's the first thing. So don't assume that if Bryce J says something that you might disagree with here, that it's the totality of his view. When you talk to ours on camera, it's easy to take things out of context, says Wayward Ranger. Yes, 100%. Yeah, they're very dishonest. They legit said Jay doesn't agree with an inclination of sin from the fall. Yeah, I know. It's the most retarded thing that you could possibly... Like, you can make all sorts of really strong arguments for your position without, like, blatantly misrepresenting somebody who's alive, who you can go and check their own words in real time. They do this with Craig Truglia, too. Craig says, I don't believe in PSA. And they say, oh, yeah? Here's one article with one sentence that says something vaguely familiar or similar to what I would say. So therefore, you're a liar, Craig. And Craig's like, bro, that's not what I believe. Here's what I do believe, and here's an explanation for that other article. And they're like, you know, they screech like freaking demons. Like they're just honestly, they're like demons. I'm gonna be straight up. They don't act like Orthodox people. They act like people influenced by demons. Because this is not how Orthodox treat people. They don't twist people's words to mean things that they're not trying to say. They're trying to make what they're trying to do is they're trying to pull Bryce out of the position that Bryce holds, which is kind of a middle position, which I have my own criticisms of, but they're trying to pull Bryce from his position and use him as a standard bearer for their own niche theology so that it can be Bryce versus the world, because they think, Bryce has the smarts. He can be the one that leads us to paradise. He can be the one that changes the church. Guys, Bryce is 25 years old. He's a smart dude. He ain't changing the church. Okay? He debates people on TikTok. I debate people on YouTube. I do reaction content. I ain't changing the church. You know, maybe if Bryce starts writing some like deeply profound theological works that sell like hotcakes to the degree of Father Stephen DeYoung, then you could maybe say that he could change the church, maybe. And by change the church, what they really mean is save the church. But Father Stephen DeYoung has had a far more profound impact than we could ever hope to know. Him and Jay Dyer and people like him. Yes, Wayward, I was aware. I do remember that you were Tactful Rogue, so no single individual can change the church. Not even Gregory of Palamas could change the church. So Gregory of Palamas didn't change the church. He just preserved orthodoxy. See, that's the thing, that these people, they always have a skewed understanding of what saving the church is. They're trying to save us from modernists when the entire church agrees with us, not with their frankly modernist point of view. And so saving the church is the wrong way to even think about it.
Works, for example, like in Against Julian, St. Augustine actually makes it explicitly clear that we do not inherit the personal guilt of Adam. I mean, he says that verbatim.
Yeah, no. He says that verbatim, but if you read St. Augustine's other works, he contradicts himself. So again, it's really like St. Augustine, again, we've covered this in this channel before. You cannot make really a strong claim on anything that St. Augustine believed, frankly, guys. St. Augustine had so much written work, oftentimes contradicting himself, that it's very difficult to even make a claim outside. Wow, Octavian. Thank you for the 99. I really appreciate that. Well, I'll just say round up to 100, but thank you for the 100. And he says, for a real bookshelf and icon corner background, love from North Cal. God bless you, brother. You are a blessing, sincerely. Much appreciated. That goes a long way. 99 bucks in California, in Korea right now, goes crazy far. 99 bucks goes crazy far. People don't realize this. Like, my part of the reason my cancer treatments are actually as cheap as they are, and don't get me wrong, they're not cheap still. It's still stretching the bank. Part of the reason the treatment is actually relatively affordable is because US dollar goes so far. So
So when when the fathers in the first millennia are talking about guilt, they're not saying that we literally inherit the personal guilt of Adam.
That's what we've been saying. So far, Bryce agrees with us.
But rather we're inheriting a form of guilt, or I guess a liability to suffer.
A liability to suffer isn't a liability to punishment or a liability to damnation. Notice there's a distinction there. Sorry, didn't know. Octavian, brother, you don't need to worry about that. It was part of my GoFundMe stuff. I don't know if you were there at the time. I don't even know if you were aware of the channel at the time when I was doing that. So God bless you, though. Thank you. But yeah, it's the treatments are going well, though. The treatments are going well. We saw a slight reduction in the size. And so as long as I keep at it, I suspect it will go away. So, God willing.
Right. From the nature that we possess, which is not the same thing as possessing some kind of personal guilt that people like to put onto Augustine, which is not the case. It works.
Well, but yeah, I mean, all they're saying is that Augustine doesn't say what we're saying. Well, literally, Bryce is agreeing with us and saying Augustine agrees with the Orthodox view. I disagree with him, by the way. I don't think that Augustine teaches that, because you just have to read how he views Adam, as Adam is an archetype, and we are condemned in Adam because Adam sinned. We're all condemned in Adam for the sin that Adam committed. So how is that not being accountable for Adam's personal sin? We're being condemned for that. Mass them not. It's not that difficult. You read them. It's not that difficult. This is why it's been a common saying for a very long time, and anybody who disagrees with this needs to go take it up with other clergy that have said this, because many clergy have said this. Very, very well-regarded clergy. We don't look to St. Augustine for his theology, typically, in the Orthodox Church. Octavian says, glory to God, I will pray for your health at St. John of San Francisco Road. Thank you. Pray for my father-in-law. Most importantly, my father-in-law's cancer is also hitting the family's finances, because we're trying to help out her parents a little bit, because he can't work right now, and her mother chopped off her finger and had to get it reattached, so she can't work right now. So both her parents are out of work right now, and he's not going to be able to work much longer with this.
For example, like in Against Julian, St. Augustine actually makes it explicitly clear.
So Jordan Belfort, is just lying here. He's misrepresenting Bryce J's position, clearly. And it's kind of irritating. It's kind of irritating. You can just do Mr. and Mrs. Lee if you can't remember these, but it's I can't even type. How do I type this in English? Huang Chol, Hyung Mi. So Huang Chol and Hyung Mi. Those are the two names. Those are very, very Korean names. Very Korean names. So, what? Exactly. So, we're going to react here to Jay's, a recent Jay clip that I felt was interesting. Hwang, H-W-A-N-G, Chul, C-H-U-L would be the best way to say it. And then Hyung, or Hyung, I can never say her mother's name properly, because it's got a very difficult way of pronouncing it. And I never call her, because it's always homonym. Homonym is how we say mother-in-law, and that's the proper informal way to say it. So I never use their names, but it's Hyungmi. So Hyung, H-U-A-N-G, me, M-I would be maybe the way to say it. I don't know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Two things. So I've listened to your videos on Sola Fide, and some of Seraphim's as well. And maybe I'm just too brainwashed from being a Protestant. I don't know. It's not clicking with me. I don't understand it. So do you know of like another YouTuber or someone who's written a book like that has written it to explain it for like a child, like really dumbed it down?
I don't know about a child's book, but I mean, I'm happy to try to childify it as best I can. What is your specific hang up?
I can't differentiate it.
You should never. Okay, I want to say this because this is actually really good of Jay. Jay looks impatient, but you got to remember he's been doing this for hours. He's probably been doing this for hours already. So he's probably already tired. He's also older. People forget Jay is not like a young buck. He's not 30, right? He's older. He's been doing this for like 20 years now. He's tired, guys. He's tired. He just wants to relax. He just doesn't want to answer the same thing 30 times. My dad gets impatient if he has to answer the same thing twice. Imagine Jay who has to answer it 100 times. My dad would be losing his mind. And I love my dad. I think my dad has the patience of a god. But my dad would even be like, like freaking out. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm tired, boss. Yep, that's exactly the look that Jay is given right here. But what I want to say in regards to this is that you should never try and dumb down a concept to try and understand it. Okay? Don't dumb it down. Word it in a way that is going to help you understand. But dumbing it down isn't necessary. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. Well, that's too damn bad. You keep digging. You guys know where that's from. First person to say it wins. First person to say it. We'll move on after that. First person. This is like a formative movie for us all. Holes! Silence! Got it. My wife and I believe Jay is extremely patient when considering the circumstances. Absolutely. He's very patient, yeah. I think people underestimate his patience. Silence, got it. Holes. That is a formative movie growing up, guys. That was a formative movie for millennials, my age in particular, because I'm a younger millennial. That movie was like profound. Dude, I like those lizards that were apparently super venomous and stuff like that. Those lizards were like terrifying. And then I grew up and realized that those lizards were like not actually poisonous at all and that like they totally made it up. They could have used snakes. They could have used like rattlesnakes, but they're like, nah, bro, we're gonna use these like lizards that are literally one of the most common reptilian pets in the trade. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Movie Sai, it's a book long before the movie. Listen, I read the book too, but the movie is what. Let's be real. Let's be real. The movie helped make the book a cultural staple. You never see Octavian. What's wrong with you, bro? You need to go watch Holes, brother. It's a cultural staple. If you're a millennial, Octavian, you have to watch that. I am telling you, you have no choice to watch that.
From what I was taught growing up, like, and maybe sometimes I wonder if it's like the words have different meanings. If that makes sense. So like,
yeah, sometimes they do. So that's probably part of it.
Yeah, so it's like you guys sound like you're saying the same thing, but I know that there's a difference. Like intrinsically, I know that. But like I said, I almost
Okay, well,
wonder if
let's talk about. I'm not.
아이디어가 있지만 수익이 나는지 확인하려고 몇 달을 기다려야 한다고요. 그럼 모멘텀은 끊기고 만.
Sure what your background is.
Okay, so I have been building my Plex Media Center, so I'm here for movie suggestions. Let's see, movie suggestions. Let me think of a couple, guys, before we move on into this, because I would like to see how Jay responds to the evangelical. Movie suggestions. Well, it really depends on the genre you like. That would be the first thing. Legend is great. It's a classic movie. Princess Bride. There's a lot of really great 70s, like if you like police, like the classic 70s and 80s police procedural movies, they're so good. So good. The 70s and 80s police procedurals were so good back in the day. Like the rugged cop with the glasses, and he's driving like a classic 70s car, and he's going around, and they got the really dopey music. Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop, pretty funny. Though I gotta admit, it doesn't hold up quite as good as some of the other ones. Dirty Harry is just a classic. I mean, it really is. You just can't go wrong with Dirty Harry. Like if you haven't watched Dirty Harry or any of the Dirty Harrys, they're all so good. If you're looking for like good stuff to watch with like a wife or a girlfriend or something like that, Korean like rom-com dramas, if your girl is into rom-coms, they're wholesome, they're clean, they typically don't have a lot of like inappropriate scenes, and they're things that are generally safe for you to watch around your children. So really Korean dramas in general are really great. Pinocchio is one that's actually like a really classic one that's really good. Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha is really good. When Life Gives You Tangerines, really, really good. Yeah, those are some good ones. Those are some good Korean dramas that you can watch. The Korean historical dramas are really good. Coffee Prince is like old. That's old. That one doesn't really hold up at all. The ones from like 2012 onward tend to be better. The Coffee Prince is like from 2008, 2009. But the historical dramas, Dongyi, very long drama but very good. Yeah, and then a lot of the times the historical dramas have great action sequences, like a mixture of kung fu and like sword fighting and epic war scenes. Like they do a good job there. Yeah, my wife watches all the K rom-coms on stuff on Netflix. I just watch them for free on like Drama Cool and stuff like that. I just use a Brave browser, and I just like ad block it all. Sci-fi, Edge of Tomorrow, that's decent. Riddick. The Riddick series is so good. People hate on the Chronicles of Riddick, but I loved the Chronicles of Riddick. I was a young guy when I saw that. I was very young. Great movie, Chronicles of Riddick. The Riddick 2 2014 was decent. It just they waited too long. They waited too long after the Chronicles of Riddick to get the next one out, and then it didn't really continue the story too much. It was kind of like a pause in the story, and now it's been another 10 years, like almost more than 10 years since the Chronicles of Riddick or the Riddick movie 2014 movie came out, and it's like the biggest problem. First few police story movies with Jackie Chan, great. All the Jackie Chan, actually, I can pretty much say almost every Jackie Chan martial arts movie, particularly the one where he is a cop, really good. Meals on Wheels, really great. Wheels on Meals is just Wheels on Meals is probably one of the greatest kung fu movies ever, with some of the greatest fight choreography you'll ever see in your life. So Wheels, it's either Meals on Wheels or Wheels on Meals. I think it's Wheels on Meals. Actually, you know what? We'll watch that after this, guys. Hold on. Actually, you know what? No, we're gonna do that right now. Hold on. All right, guys. we're going to move over to this real quick because this is the greatest fight scene ever in Kung Fu history, in my opinion.
전 출장을 많이 다녔죠.
I don't think this should.
꿀팁 두
I
가지를
don't think this
알려드릴까요?
should block me.
직장 상사와 절대 같은 층에 묵지 마세요.
I don't think this should
출장
demonetize me on
호텔스닷컴에서 예약하세요.
YouTube. So.
숙박을 할 때마다 리워드 1박을 받을 수 있거든요. 수십만 개 호텔에서 즐겨보세요.
Mr. Thanks for the guy. Five gifted subs. Much appreciated, brother. God bless you.
Well, don't let it get to you. Cheers.
Even with the voiceover, it's still so good. We're gonna skip to the part.
Howdy.
They do such a good job. I mean, the hits look like they actually have impact. They do such a good job, guys.
Hang in there. He's not really that tough. You take care of him. I'll go get the girls. Yeah! Come! Come! Come on! Yeah! He's a dirty fighter. You take care of him. You can do it. I can't. I'm out of breath. Go on.
Dude, this was all pure acrobatics. By the way, one of the greatest fighters that ever hit the ring, kickboxers in the world, 77 wins, 0 losses. 77 wins, 0 losses. He fought people before there were regulations on like body class. Like he was fighting people way bigger than like double his size. This guy was one of the greatest fighters ever lived. If you ever have a chance, look him up. Just look how smooth that is, guys. They just let things like hold. There isn't like a rush to get by it and like to like keep your attention.
Huh?
By the way, this actor, this kung fu fighter, this kung fu actor, one of the most famous like actors in his time. So good, and the fact that he was like a chunky boy and doing these stunts, very impressive. Let's be real here.
Huh? Huh? Ow! Very good, dirty fighter.
So what's so interesting is that they just let things hang. They let the camera sit. They don't try and like cut. They have a little bit of humor injected in there. It's like that classic like 70s, 80s, 90s kung fu humor that we just don't get in Hollywood anymore. They would never, like, none of this would ever be allowed. Just this like because they're just, everything has to be done so quickly. There's like the only independent films would ever be able to do this, and then the regulations would make it nigh impossible. Yeah, Xset says they just don't make kung fu movies like they used to now. It's all cut, hit, cut, hit. Not long shots, 6, 7, 8 attacks, and then those small pauses mid-fight. Watch this part. So good. Watch this kick. Dude, he really kicked, like he used the air from his kick was so quick, he actually blew out those candles. I watched a documentary on it. He actually blew out the candles. That kick, if that had connected with Jackie, if Jackie had been like not paying attention that take, bro. So good. And look at how, like, just in shape Jackie is. I mean, just absolutely insane. Like, insane level of physical athleticism here. You gotta remember, he's doing this take probably 100 times.
Oh, don't panic.
Because he's like an obsessive.
Take it easy.
He's obsessive.
Just think of it as a training session. Don't panic.
That classic 70s music.
Next round.
With a little bit of Chinese, Asian flavoring there too.
One, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4.
Gosh, he's just in peak physical condition there, guys. It's insane. This is one of the greatest fighters at time. And yeah, this guy is actually very small. He was one of the greatest kickboxers of all time. One of the greatest kickboxers of all time. It's Benny the Jet. I remember now. Yeah, I would say that John Wick was probably a slight return to form for action movies, but I'd say anything after the second one really went over the top. Like they just kind of became over the top spectacles again. Great cinematography, great like moves and things like that, but it just got a little too big for its britches, in my opinion.
You're pretty good.
wow, this guy's good. I should have paid more attention in class.
Watch this rotating kick that he does. It's absolutely insane. So that's some good stuff, guys, right there. Show you Benny the Jet. Benny the Jet Urquidez was small.
Everyone knows Google's
scrappy.
Nano Banana. It changed the game when it came to character and object consistency.
No way.
And his record represents the best in the sport with a tremendous wins coming by wins, no losses. 49 wins coming by way.
49 wins, 0 losses at the time. He, if you include like exhibition matches and things like that, he had 77 wins, 0 losses. One of the greatest fighters of all time. It's just too bad we don't have a lot of his like film because like it's just from the 70s, so old.
Spectacular career. Please welcome the 5-time undefeated world champion, the one and only legendary.
His spinning back kick, dude, he would like connect right with people's ribs, and the amount of broken ribs he caused with his spinning back kick was just absolutely insane, and he was so pinpoint accurate with it.
What an emotional sight, and what a great victory for the Jets. Benny Urquidez says goodbye after more than 4.5 years of inactivity. A simply great fight.
Kickboxing is the rules of the 70s rules of fighting were superior to UFC. I'm gonna say it. Superior to modern boxing, superior to UFC. The rules of the World Kickboxing Championship, there were clear rules, clear ways to score points, and it didn't turn into just a mindless brawl, which it was just a superior sport, in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of modern UFC. UFC is short. It turns into it's a two-trick pony. There in kickboxing, there was an entire school of Japanese style kickboxing that was entirely different from the American school. The American school is all about like really hitting hard to try and get that knockout. Japanese kickboxing was all about smacking the legs. They wanted to hit those thighs so much, they would just kick people's thighs until their legs gave out. And the Japanese were like masters of endurance. They could just keep on whacking you. And it's just too bad. Yeah, it's too bad kickboxing Jung List revival. Too bad kickboxing took a dive in the US and never regained its popularity. I know, it's tragic. It's one of my favorite sports. I go back and watch old reruns all the time. And Urquidez is just so good. He's a small little guy, dude. He's small. He's short. Short little guy. He still does training, by the way, to this day. He still trains people. Out in California, in LA. He was out cold standing. He was out cold. That guy doesn't even know where he's at. Let's go back. Watch. Boom! Boom! He's out. He's out right here. Out right here, he's out. He's out. They break him up, he's gone. He doesn't know where he's at. He does not know where he's at. He's like... he turned into a guy that was like... Oh, dude. That spinning back kick every time, dude. Could you imagine getting whacked with one of those? Oh, dude! Oh, man, look at that. Guys, you guys gotta watch that. Like, watch. This is, I get pumped up about kickboxing, guys. This is, like, the one thing that is, like, my big nerd when it comes to fighting sports. Just watch. Watch, missed, takes the opportunity, comes in with a spinning back kick right into that lower rib. Guys keeled over in pain immediately. Like, instantaneously. Wham! Right there, right where he needed to connect. Right where he needed to connect. He saw the guy miss with his kick for the face. He backed up, stepped in, wham! And it's like, holy crap. It's like not even close. Anyways, I don't want to like belabor this, so we're gonna go back. But you guys can't beat that. I mean, Benny the Jet, one of the greatest fighters of all time. Barely, no one even knows about him. He's not even talked about in like top contenders for greatest fighters in like fighting sports history. He's not even considered. And he's 77-0. 77-0. Never lost ever. He's got a better record than the crap is that boxer that has a unbroken record. Why am I blanking on his name? He fought freaking McGregor. I don't even remember he did. Floyd Mayweather. Thank you. Floyd. Agent Trouble. Benny the Jet's got a better record than him. And he fought guys that were bigger than him, like significantly bigger than him. He didn't care. He'd fight anybody. But that's part of the reason why I like kickboxing back in the 70s is that weight class was a little bit less important. I mean, it was still important, but it was like the rules were designed in such a way that like people's weight could be taken advantage of a little bit less. Because you weren't just rolling around on the floor the whole time, which is like that's what modern UFC becomes now. It's like if you don't strike someone out like immediately and they grapple you, it's just gonna turn into a rough and tumble on the floor the whole time until someone can get a submission or you can choke someone out. You know, it's just like it's boring. I don't know. I like the idea of like this like the tacticalness of these things. So
is it evangelical or like classical Lutheran, Calvinist? What's your background?
Evangelical.
Okay, most evangelicals believe that salvation is when you initially make a commitment to Christ and you pray a prayer, and that's salvation. We don't believe that that very limited idea is what, quote, salvation is. It's much more.
Them Dagestanis turn every division into a hug fest for 5 hours. Yeah, for 5 rounds. Yeah, yep. Mr. Fist is correct. Yeah, but the thing is, profound, is that wrestling and BJJ, they're their own sports for a reason. Like, I don't think it's wrong for people to know how to do that stuff. But not everyone wants to see two grown men rolling around in their undies the whole time. No offense.
Expansive, and there's much more of a requirement than just a one-time prayer event, right? So that's the beginning of your salvation, but you also, as Paul says, have to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. You also have to do good works, which demonstrate that you really were converted and that you really did undergo a change. So all of those things are necessary, as well as persevering to the end and growing in grace and becoming godlike through living the life of an Orthodox Christian in the sacraments. So you need the grace of the Eucharist, confession, all those things that are in the Orthodox Church as a kind of consistent lived life. So
I want to see the days of roided Overeem eating giant uppercuts. Yeah, guys with just thick necks where you like hit their chin and they don't even move. They're just like they bust out a tooth and they spit it out and they're just like, ah! Yeah, it's like, ah! Yeah, I mean it is funny because that, you know, that's the kind of fighting that I remember when I was young. Like, it started going out of fashion in like 2005-ish, 2008-ish. UFC was like transcendent at this point, and a lot of like that old style stuff is going away. Pedro, what's up, man? Striking combat sports is objectively more entertaining. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you. I agree. Striking combat sports are way more entertaining because there's rules. There's a lot more finesse. Boxing has become boring because it's all rigged from the get-go. Like, it's all rigged.
So that you persevere to the end. Whereas in Protestantism, it's really just this one time, you said the prayer, you're saved, and then you try to show that you were saved by being moral.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Because I had a long phone conversation with an elder at my church, because I've kind of been battling a little bit after watching your videos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been very distressing to kind of deconstruct everything you've been.
You need knowledge to appreciate the technical end of grappling. I understand the technical end. I had friends that were in wrestling. I had friends that did BJJ. I watched it. I understand it enough to be able to appreciate some of it. But at the end of the day, it's two grown men rolling around. Like, I just don't want to see that. And it's just not flashy. I'm gonna be honest. I'm watching sports to see the highlights. There is no highlight for me in two men rolling around in the dirt, you know? There's just no highlight. It's like no one watches Troy, right? No one watches Troy, right, guys? No one watches Troy to see the moment in combat with two armies colliding where people are throwing away their spears and they're just rolling around in the muck, you know, just going at it, and it's just fisticuffs. No, people go in there to see the tactics and the spears and the guy blocking with a shield, and you know, like, people like to see the flashiness. And don't get me wrong, I know that's not how it is. I know it. In reality, I know that's not how a fight works. I know that two people don't just agree to, like, but then it's not a sport. It's like, at that point, it's not a sport. We come to the stands to see the last 10 laps of the Daytona 500. Exactly. No one watches. Who wants to watch the first, I don't know how many laps, like the first 90% of the race? No one wants to watch that. Nothing happens. It's all like, frankly, just make them 10 laps. I don't even understand why they waste everybody's time. It's like, okay, do I have to sit here in the hot sun baking because you guys need to go around a lap another 100 times? Like, okay, sure, I guess.
Taught since a child.
Yeah, I was there. I understand. I've been there.
Yeah. And the deacon basically agreed with me about everything, which they were just your arguments. I just kind of like, I was agreeing with you, kind of laying it all out. And
the deacon at your evangelical church?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that kind of, you know, I was like, okay, well, that's not really helpful. Like, you know, so, but then so that was sola scriptura. And so now I'm trying to sort of go to the sola fide. Now I'm trying to just go one by one and kind of deconstructing. So thank you for explaining that.
Danny Town, the race is the background while you get wasted on cheap beer and overpriced food. So true. Cool to see you stream again, bro. Did you see Andrew on Joe Rogan? I did see Andrew on Joe Rogan. It was, overall, it was pretty good. I mean, there wasn't anything really to react to. Him and Joe seemed to get along well, which is good. And Andrew getting more popular is a good thing for everybody involved. So, I mean, Andrew has a lot of great insights when it comes to political things and whatnot. So it's good. And Andrew getting a foot in the door helps get other Orthodox content creators in the door. You know, it helps get people like Jim Bob blew up pretty big, like a lot bigger than he was before. Once he was given a few platforms with Andrew, he's opened doors to others. So it's good. It's good to see that.
Second thing real quick on this Charlie Kirk thing. We've had a death in the family, so I've had a lot of time to myself. And on X, I've spent a lot more time online than normal. And seeing a lot of
Guys, if I went on Rogan, I don't even know what I'd talk about, honestly. Who's Jim Bob? Just go look up on YouTube, Made by Jim Bob. Made by Jim Bob. He does live streaming. Similar to Andrew, very good humor. Jim Bob is really, really funny. Does memes, really good memes.
calls for, not calls for, but sort of, it seems like the conservative side of the aisle is sort of, you know, there's accountability for what you say online at your workplace. You know, there's sort of no more Mr. Nice Guy kind of attitude on the right. And I empathize with it and somewhat agree with it, or I guess I do agree with it. But I also understand that like emotions are really high, and I'm sort of concerned that I'm being kind of let off a cliff, I guess. Do you get the sense at all?
Let off a cliff by who? What do you mean?
Well, let off a cliff, like sort of. It seems like all the main people on the right, and I feel like I listen to a lot of them. But like even J.D. Vance this morning, he was saying no unity with these people who are celebrating the death of the murder of people
In government or in political positions like that, in general. But that phrase itself, I agree with, because I think this has shown everybody that we're 10, 20 years past the idea of civil debate. You're not going to debate with possessed demons, right? It's like, I'm trying to reason with Lucifer and he just keeps lying and disagreeing with me. I don't understand what's going on. It's because these people actually have spiritual things going on. So no, you're not going to actually be able to reason with people who are openly sons of Belial. And that doesn't mean that those people can't still be saved, that God's grace can't reach them. But the further that you go down this crazy spiral of wickedness, let's understand the books of the Kings, as I talked about today. If you heard my 4th hour, we forget some of these verses where we have these descriptions of these types of people that are willing to engage a diakonos, a deacon. So the state actually has a almost diaconate. It's a lower level of clergy role. That's why the Byzantine emperor could sit behind the iconostasis. He is equivalent to a diakonos, and he holds that sword, not just Romans 13, but Paul says to Timothy, also as a means of a deterrence. And nobody before the year 1900, unless there was some kind of weird fringe pacifist, ever believed that you should get rid of the death penalty. It's a very modern, pacifist, ridiculous idea. The church fathers talk about the death penalty all the time. Classical Christian Orthodox countries, countless statements about the death penalty. Code of Justinian, on and on and on. And so anybody telling you otherwise, if they're in the OCA, they're Americanists, putting their Americanism and their pacifism before church history. Their own church. It's amazing the level of ignorance people have of their own church and their own Christian nation's previous policies. Imagine trying to be a Serbian king fighting Muslims and being a pacifist. This is so stupid. I mean, it's utterly retarded that we have to explain to people basic morals.
I agree with Jay.
That are not even that controversial in the history of Christianity.
Yeah, the whole pacifism thing that's going on, and we gotta be nice. We gotta be nice all the time. We can't say anything controversial. We can't be rude. But what about the feelings, people? What about our feelings? It's just so ridiculous. Stop with the feelings crap. It's so boring and low tier. It's so low tier. Jeez. Lord have mercy. All right. All right.
And armies of clergy and liberal theologians will just denounce the ortho bros, and it's like what? Where are you? Like, what world are you living in? You've got
I'm sick and tired of like the constant like attacks on the ortho, like quote unquote ortho bros. And not because it's like, not because I consider myself one. I guess I would. I just don't see it as like who cares? If you don't like how certain people engage in the online sphere, you really need to just like get over yourself and get off the online sphere. Like, if you don't like it, don't engage in it. It's like that simple. And yet people just they can't help themselves. They want a piety signal. That's all they want to do all day long is freaking piety signal. And it's maddening. It's maddening. It's actually, frankly, it's kind of disgusting. The way in which they engage, the way in which we have to constantly work with these work on these things and whatnot. I don't care. Okay, I don't care if you're offended. I just don't care. I can't be bothered to care. Let me pull this up here. La 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 la. You know, Elijah Yassey, right? Elijah Yassey can crash out, and he's entirely justified to crash out for weeks now. It's been weeks since his debate with Alex Soren, and he's still crashing out about it. And no one calls him out. No one calls him a catho bro. Oh, he's such a catho bro LARPer. He's such a LARPer. Oh. No one does that to them. No one. No one will call that out. They're all going, and none of the Orthodox people that constantly moan and groan about the ortho bros, none of them will say anything about it. But God forbid we say, dude, stop acting like a little bitch. God forbid we tell him to act like a freaking man and stop acting like a little bitch and like being a little jabby little like in the background. Like, God forbid I call someone an idiot for being an idiot. God forbid I call someone an idiot for acting like an idiot. Right? It's just irritating. I'm trying to pull this up, guys. Sorry. Like, am I supposed to be nice to these people? I don't get it. Let me get this straight. I get called an ortho bro. I get called a modernist and all this stuff. And people get irritated with me because I call it like the Latinizers, for example. But God forbid those guys, those same people who sit around in their Discords, and I've seen how they talk about me in their Discords. I see what they say about my wife. You know, I never got an apology. By the way, not that I need one from a child, because he acts like a child, even though he's an adult at this point. It's been years and years now, and he still acts like a teenager. Caleb of Atlanta, never got an apology from him for bringing my wife into a disagreement on things. Oh, the reason Nicholai wants this to be true is because his wife is a pagan or something like that, which is not true. My wife's not a pagan, guys. But like, even if that were true, Why bring it up? And so it's just irritating because it's like no one calls any of those guys out. No, they're popular because they post the occasional tongue-in-cheek meme, and so therefore they're popular. They're not nice. They're nice and smooth on the surface, right? But God forbid, someone says, you got to stop acting like an F slur, right? You got to stop acting like a bitch, right? You got to stop acting like a bitch. You got to stop acting like a bitch. The moment you say that, they lose their minds. Man, this guy just all day long. He's kind of dying off though, guys, if we're going to be real. He's kind of dying off. I mean, look at this, guys. Did he delete the live stream with me? I think he deleted the live stream with me. This could be it. I don't think so, though. Interesting. I think he might have just. I think he. I think he might have deleted my the live stream with us. One day ago. The truth about it, C.S. Lewis? No way.
The AI Toolkit is live on Artlist. Every leading AI tool you need for video creation is now.
Today we're going to be talking about orthodoxy. I'm an Orthodox Christian. I love talking about Orthodox theology. Studying the early church fathers is a pretty fun thing to do. There's lots of good wisdom.
It's not fun because they don't agree with you, bro. But we'll skip past your... I'm really Orthodox, bro. I promise I'm Orthodox. Have a good day, man. I'm out of here. God bless you, Pedro. With our AI tool, you can make slop too. So true.
For someone who's never encountered orthodoxy, could you give an explanation of what it is?
So there's a lot to say here, but the simplest way to say it probably would be that the Orthodox faith follows the teachings of Jesus Christ, which were preached by the apostles and preserved by the Holy Fathers. The Orthodox Church is the authentic church.
Yeah, so if what he means by all this biblical orthodoxy, that is, the apostles preached this faith, it was handed down to the saints, and the early church fathers, the people who heard the...
Early church fathers. Can't listen to this demon, bro. Yeah, I think I probably can't either. Honestly, guys, I don't know if I can. I don't think I can do it. Don't think I can do it. There's too much slop nowadays. There's too much slop. Too much slop. Eastern Orthodox. It's amazing the first 3 videos that pop up. There's only One True Church by Father Spiriton, which is a fantastic video, by the way. And then before you become Eastern Orthodox. Very interesting. Is Eastern Orthodoxy not biblical? All right, Good Fight Ministries, guys. Let's see what we. This is actually something new, so let's see if there's anything of substance here.
All right, guys, we are responding, or even just looking at some awesome praise reports from some of the comments on YouTube.
I hate that. I hate everything about that sound. Oh, Lord have mercy. I hate everything. Oh, Lord, that was terrible.
Is from the Jason Adam Comedy Show 7646, and he said, quote, I had interest in going to Burning Man one day, but thanks to Pastor Joe and Chad, I lost interest. Thanks, Pastor Joe and Chad, for exposing this. Amen. That's why we do these things. We want to warn people about the things they're getting into.
Gosh, he seems like one of those guys from high school that becomes a salesman and is like moderately successful. So now he like has a big head on his shoulders. That's what this guy is like telling me. In fact, I know a guy like that I grew up with. He was like moderately successful. He's moderately successful now. Like he is like a VP of sales at a medium-sized company in Minnesota where I grew up. And he's got the biggest ass head on his shoulder. He just like walks around like he walks into every room like he owns it, like as if he's some big cheese now. And it's really insufferable.
I've been not to Burning Man, but I've been to EDC to share the gospel, the Electric Daisy Carnival, and some of those things. It's pretty wicked. Even going there, you'd have to be really prayed up, even when you're out witnessing a lot of the wicked things that are before you. So praise God for you. This next one is from Eric Haag, Haag 5229. I'm guessing Haag is maybe that's Dutch, but this is on why does the rapture matter? And this is what he said. There is no rapture, not in September, not ever. It's a false doctrine. The rapture is a false doctrine and consequently may have dire consequences for those who believe in it and then come to disappointment at precisely the wrong time to be having a crisis of faith, question the Bible rather than questioning their understanding of it. So yeah, it is a big deal indeed. The lollipop church of today needs to wake up and stop believing in the doctrines of devils. Now, I'm going to guess that Eric is talking about what is known as the pre-trib rapture. Yes, rapture, you might see a lot of times is not found in the Bible. That's just because it's a Latin term we're reading in Greek. The parousia is what we see in Greek in the scriptures. If you read 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, you can't really get around it. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it's called the episynagoge, or the gathering together to him. You have it clearly in Matthew 24, 29 through 31, after the tribulation of those days where the elect.
Yeah, but again, these are just massive. He's just reading into stuff at this point. It's just like, okay, why do I accept your interpretation
of the earth? And in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, specifically 16
all of
and
those
17,
things can be interpreted in other ways.
Christ rising first and that parousia taking place. All of those things, they happen at the
원하는 건 웹사이트지 새 툴을 배우는 부업이
No
아닙니다.
way.
메누스라면 말만 하면 됩니다.
Thank you.
End of the tribulation, after the tribulation of those days, after the revealing of the Antichrist and the great falling away, all of those things. So
Jordan
I get what you're trying to
says
warn against, which is a pre-tribulation rapture that has no signs before it, that happens 7 years prior to his second coming, where it gives Jesus a second and a third coming because he only comes to the clouds and not the earth and so forth. All of that, I think it's not accurate to say there's no rapture in the Bible when it's just simply a Latin terminology we use to describe the parousia or our gathering together to him. This one comes from Leslie AL0077, and she comments.
This is a big channel, guys.
Sister, and this is from our video counselor.
This is a big channel. Like these guys they have 293,000 subscribers. 293,000 subscribers. Let's see what their views are looking like. They're averaging decent views. A lot of really bad AI. Looks like they mostly respond to news. This is probably going to be super low tier.
The Council of Nicaea was when Jesus became God, ? No, it wasn't. And she said, so then I have a question. Then is Eastern Orthodoxy biblical? If he claims the early church didn't teach Jesus was God, but a created being and advocates for EO, say they are adherents of the early church, it's so confusing. When it comes to Eastern Orthodoxy, and we could talk and go really deep into the Great Schism and 1054 and so forth between the Catholic Church of the West and those in the East and all of that. The modern day Eastern Orthodox Church that we see today, a lot of times when you look at it, is very anti-biblical because they lean so hard into tradition, because they lean so hard into, I think, a lot of ad hoc understanding of things.
Okay. Claim, 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 claim. Claim, 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 claim.
It's why we are told, you watch online and you see all these videos of Eastern Orthodox, and it seems like we're masculine, and there's all of this like really great stuff going on in the Eastern Orthodox, but then you actually, if you ever visited a parish, you wouldn't actually see that.
What are you talking about? What? Has he ever been to a church? Has he listened to what we actually say? Good assertions ministry, just like he's just saying things like, he's like, that's not actually what you'll see. What are you talking about? What, are you going to see masculinity in your prot-slop church in a bunker?
What you see is a lot of scripture cosplay and a lot of nonsense, whether it is the bowing and kissing down of icons, something that did not get introduced in the church, beyond a shadow of a doubt, until the Byzantine era.
First off, there was no Byzantine era. That's a completely made-up modernist term. It was Rome. Second, there is increasing amount of evidence of icon veneration in the 1st century. And we know that there were icons and images in synagogues. So he's just like, this is just not true. This is just blatantly not true. It's like Truman Show. What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to? It's like, you're just like, it's just amazing. It's amazing. They just make claims. They just make claims.
And basically took over. And the early church was a kind of classic. You read that in Justin Martyr. You can read that. And none of that matters.
Justin Martyr was a bishop. He believed in the Eucharist. You do not believe in the Eucharist. Like these guys just say, I saw a quote once from Justin Martyr, and I'm going to treat it the same way I treat my Bible, by just taking verses arbitrarily and assuming that is representative of the whole, a holistic view of their beliefs. Oh, Lord have mercy. Lord have freaking mercy, guys. Oh.
In all honesty, if I just went from this doctrine alone, I would know they were false. None of that matters, even when it comes to what the early church taught regarding this, because when you see so clearly in Scripture, even Cornelius, when he began to try to bow down, to actually bow down to Peter, not like a picture of Peter, not an icon, not a kissing, not a this. When he went to go bow down to actual Peter, Peter said, no, I am but a man. But you think that in the Eastern Orthodox, you can bow down to idols, icons?
Yeah. Veneration's not worship. Again, Daniel accepted the veneration of a king. He accepted it, and they called it worship. Was Daniel wrong? Why was Daniel not struck dead right then and there in the Old Testament? Oh, you can't explain that. You can't explain that. Oh, Lord, these people.
Kiss them and so forth, and makes you masculine.
This is just like Ortlandia apologetics. Yes, baby girl. Yes? What is it? Hold on. Hello? Why didn't you call me? Sure. Sure. Yeah, you just chop it up into cubes and then you... Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I know where the sauce is at. And then how much water do I put in it? Like a cup? 1 cup or a whole cup worth of water? Okay. Got it. All right, we'll do that. I'm going to be leaving soon, but I'll make the food before I leave. Yeah, will do. All right, love you, darling. Have a nice day. I will, darling. I love you. I'll be home before you get home. It's only tomorrow is the meeting at 4, and today I just have to go do a couple things to prep. Yeah. All right, see you later.
Mama,
What? All right, guys. Listen, generally, Orthodox Joe, that's a pastoral question generally, but what I can tell you is what I've been told. I'm okay, guys. I'm okay. I might be going on a walk here soon. So we might be taking the stream on a walk. We might be taking the stream onto a walk. So that might be fun. So it'll be more of a Q&A and just showing you guys around. So if you guys want to join that one. But after this, I got to do one other thing too. I have to make some food for my daughter. But Orthodox Joe says, hey, brother, I was curious if you knew the Orthodox position on tattoos. I have seen conflicting things online, but haven't had a chance to ask. Well, just ask your spiritual father. That would be the best thing. My understanding is that generally it's unadvisable. Generally, it's unadvisable. Clearly, those who already had tattoos and come into the church, you know, there's a difference, right? Like that, there's a distinction there, right? But generally, it's unadvisable. So that's what I could say.
Some of the stuff is just nonsense. And Eastern Orthodox, if you are catechized and then you have to, and you convert to Eastern Orthodox, ultimately you have to deny that God's word is sufficient. That's one of the things that you have to deny. And I will never believe that God's word is not sufficient enough to bring people to salvation and to know what church is actually supposed to look like. This next one is from...
All right, that was like one of the most boring, low tier prot slops that I've ever seen in my life. So boring. So boring. Ugh. These people, just can't stand them. How Eastern Orthodoxy was invented? Oh my gosh, scholastic answers.
So John Beck.
So I want to so one thing you guys need to know about this Walmart level apologist, this low tier bloviating dork, this guy right here, okay? One thing you need to know about him is that he is holding to and pushing for a position his own church does not even hold to. His own church tells him not to try and convert us. His own church says it's a sin against ecumenism. His own church says that he's wrong. His own church has convened the best scholars in the Vatican, have come together and said that he's wrong. And yet he continues to hold to his position. Have you heard of the position that Orthodoxy was invented in France in the 1920s? I have heard that. It's just retarded.
So let me give you guys some lore, because this, I'm telling you, once you begin to look into the history behind all of these things, it's absolutely bonkers. So basically what happened is,
I mean, someone like Craig Truglia has picked apart these retarded claims 100 different times, and none of them will ever engage with what Craig says. None of them actually talk about what Jay says. None of them actually address what Jay, Craig, Energetic Procession, or any of our scholarship says. Any of our historical scholarship, they don't care. They just make claims. And it's just boring, low-tier slop.
There's the reunion council, which is Second Leon, because there's obviously the break with Photius that happens in the 9th century, and that schism is healed. And then you have the break in 1053 that happens, and then you have kind of a few hundred years of separation. So there had been some time of splitting between the churches. There have been a lot of treatises written on both sides in defense or attacking the Filioque. There's actually a famous treatise written by the Archbishop of Thessalonica, which eventually Gregory Palamas was the Archbishop of Thessalonica. So there was a famous one.
Okay,
written,
but why is that relevant? How is that relevant at all? Who cares? Who cares if Gregory Palamas was the Archbishop of and who cares if there was a bishop, one or two bishops here or there, who tried to defend the Filioque and failed because the Filioque is false?
Actually defending the Filioque's doctrine and attacking it from a canonical point of view. All the Latins were defending the Filioque 100%. The Greeks, some of them defended it doctrinally, but not canonically. Some of them defended it doctrinally and canonically. Some of them attacked it. So in the East, it was a live question, actually. They don't.
It wasn't a live question. He's bullshitting himself. It was universally rejected. There were a few people that speculated, but they're not relevant. You know who's relevant in Orthodoxy? Again, this is why these low-tier prots, he's literally a Protestant. These low-tier prot slop from these Roman Catholic, these Romanists, these papists, is this. All it is oh, I don't understand how Orthodoxy works. That's all it is. That's all it is. We don't care what a single bishop says. We care what our synods and pan-Orthodox synods say. Period. End of story. Anything else is irrelevant. Okay? Nothing else is relevant. There can be a bishop that says something in a speech that is 100% true, and one that says something that's 100% false. Guess what? What's relevant is which synod acknowledges which person. Period. End of story. There's no other arguments. I'm done with it. This low tier prot slop. From now on, we're not even giving them the courtesy of using Roman Catholic. They are Roman papists or prot slops.
To know this, but in the East, even after the schism, even after the time of Photius, for a very long time, there was this live question of the Filioque on the table.
Listen, if you have to make a coherent point without having to cut, seriously, dude, come on.
Table. So multiple patriarchs of Constantinople affirmed the Filioque after Photius.
Are they talking about eternal procession or temporal procession?
Deposed.
What happened to good old Rat? Well, we will be using Rat if he continues to act this way, for sure.
Such, but they affirmed it. They affirmed it and defended it. John Bekos is one of them. But basically, in the 13th century, you have a man named John Bekos. He becomes Patriarch of Constantinople. He's a very learned man, and he writes a very pens a very famous defense of Filioque.
There was just one person that changed it all. Man, they still think that we're papists. They still think that we just operate in the way that papism works.
Because he was a student of the fathers, especially of St. Cyril.
He's such a low cow.
Council called in 1274 that St. Thomas dies on the way of and St. Bonaventure dies at, called Second Leon. It's the most Western of the ecumenical councils, actually. And at Second Leon, they debate the Filioque. Bekos was sent and told, hey, you better not, sign agreement. So he goes there. He defends it, arguments, blah, blah, blah. Reunion gets promulgated, goes back.
Yeah, guys, anyone who is giving you a historical analysis that says, well, blah, 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 and just breezes over all the nuance of it, he's not a serious person.
Back and they're like, hey, you were not supposed to agree with the Latins here. You were not supposed to do that. you were actually supposed to, just kind of put off reunion, because we want the help from the Latins. And we don't want to, for political reasons, we don't want to have strife with them, but we don't actually want like reunion going on.
Oh, really? Show me the letter where he says that. Show me the letter where he says, listen, you got to put it off, but we don't want real reunion. We don't want that. Show me the evidence, you jackass. Rat. We got to do rats in the chat, guys. He doesn't care. Dishonest. Rats in the chat. We got to do it. Unfortunately, he deserves it.
So he gets opposed by other Eastern Orthodox, and there was basically just completely destroyed all of Photius's arguments, and they kind of had to do something. So there was a figure named Gregory of Cyprus, and Gregory of Cyprus was the one who invented the idea of a eternal manifestation. Before that point, you read Photius, you see no.
Before that point, there was no one that talked about the difference between eternal and temporal procession? Are you an idiot? This guy is stupid. I can't watch any more of this. This low tier just no reunion with rats. So true. So true. Revealed Apologetics did a response to Peter Paul. Or Reader Paul.
Just you.
Peter Paul.
Building your app on base 44.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Revealed Apologetics. I'm your host, Nicholai Ayala, and I am joined here by my two guests who've been on the channel before, my good friend, Dr. Tony Costa and Joshua Shuping. If you're interested
All right. Sorry, guys. I had to puke. Just the name scooping. The name scooping makes me want to hurl. The name scooping has to be, oh Lord, one of the worst things ever. It's absolutely insane that anyone takes Joshua Scooping seriously. And I guarantee you 90% of his arguments will be like, they don't affirm PSA and original sin. That's bad. And icons are gross and yucky. Like, that's 90% of Scooping. So we can pretty much like not take anything he says seriously ever, period. But
you're familiar with their work. If you look back on the backlog of the videos on Revealed Apologetics, you'll notice that Dr. Tony Costa has come on multiple times to address issues of Islam, Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox.
I am going to die, guys. I'm dying inside every moment. Every moment. Every heartbeat, I'm one step closer to death.
A particularly good interview that we did together was one entitled "Is Eastern Orthodox Orthodox?" I thought that was a lot of fun, and these are important topics too. And then
I think I reacted to that a long time ago. I think I watched that and reacted to that a long time ago.
To discuss Eastern Orthodox presuppositionalism and things like that. That's kind of going to be related to what we're going to be talking about today, but related and not related at the same time, if that makes sense. Okay, so before we start, gentlemen.
Oh, is this doc? No, I didn't react to Revealed Apologetics. I reacted to Costa on a different video. Costa is a dishonest little rat. Completely disingenuous little guy. He has no idea what he's talking about. And Scooping is probably just as incompetent as this guy.
Why don't you introduce yourself more formally for folks who maybe have never heard of you before, and let us know where you're coming from, and then we'll jump right into the discussion. How about Joshua first? Joshua first.
Go ahead,
his beard is longer, so you show respect.
Respect the beard.
Oh, no. It's just to cover my sins.
Nice.
So I'm Reverend Joshua Shuping. I'm a pastor in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. I pastor in Arkansas, and I spent about 5 years as a priest in the Eastern Orthodox Church and left I went to seminary at St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary for 4 years, and so I spent a fair bit of time in and around Eastern Orthodox thought and theology, and so happy to address and speak to some of the issues that are raised by Eastern Orthodox apologists.
Yeah, thank you for
thank you so much, Eli, for welcoming me on and even having the graciousness to have me on a second time. So
well, it's my pleasure, brother. And what about you, Dr. Costa? Why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Tony Costa. I live in Toronto, Canada.
Oh gosh, this guy.
I do teaching with
This guy. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. This guy was horrible last time, guys.
University.
What's something good to read concerning Orthodox view on original sin? I've been confused. I've been confused lately because I've heard Orthodox saying we do hold to and aren't Pelagian. We aren't Pelagian, but we also don't hold to Augustinian original sin. We do hold to original sin. It's typically understood as ancestral sin from our point of view. But here is the best reading you can possibly do. Your Orthodox Study Bible, if you have one. Open it up to page 6, and you can read the insert on ancestral sin. It tells you everything you need to know about what we believe about sin. That's all you need. Hope that helps. Michael Witkoff's book isn't approved by anybody. I don't approve of anybody actually recommending this to anybody. So I'm sorry. I'm going to remove that. No one's recommending a book that has no clergy support, no clergy approval. No bishop has even reviewed it before he released it. No. You can, if you want a little taste of how bad his research is, go read the critiques that Energetic Procession or Dr. Perry did on it. If you want to know about sin in the Orthodox Church, it's right here. Or you can read Father Stephen D. Young. His book, The Religion of the Apostles, goes into depth about atonement and sin and things like that. You can also watch his podcast. The Whole Counsel. I think it's the Whole Counsel of God or the Whole Counsel podcast. Those are the best ones you can go to in regards to that. I've also been confused about ancestral sin in regards to unbaptized infants, especially when it comes to Canon 16 of Dositheus. Canon 16 of Dositheus doesn't teach that infants are damned necessarily. It teaches that normatively we baptize infants because that is necessary for their salvation, because our presupposition is that infants aren't going to just die, that like they're just not going to like just keel over and die, right? The assumption is that they need this in order to remit them of their sins, because they will commit sins eventually. That's the whole point. St. John Chrysostom makes it clear that infants have no personal sin. There's no sin that they're being held accountable for. They're not being remitted for a sin that they did not commit. Now, if you're talking about sin in the sense that the consequences and concupiscence, and if you're talking about the consequences of sin and the fallen nature that the fallen world that we live in, and the inclination towards sin, then yes, that's a different story. But Canon 16 is not like a exhaustive treatise on every single exception or understanding of that. All right, thanks. I've been delaying with anxiety over this because my mother had a miscarriage, so it's been hard for me. I don't have a spiritual father to talk about this currently. Well, I mean, your best bet is go talk to Father Stephen D. Young. Go watch his Whole Counsel of God podcast. Go tune into his Twitter, or his Twitch, I should say, his Twitch. He has a Q&A session that you can actually ask him about miscarriages. You can also read this. I'm going to pull this up for you, just for you, because this is very important. And I've done this before on the channel, but this video is so low tier that I feel like it's not worthwhile, so we'll do this. Service after a miscarriage or stillbirth. By necessity, unbaptized. By necessity, So we're going to go past the part where they're just kind of like praying for the person. Okay. O Master, our God, who is born of the holy Theotokos, ever Virgin Mary, and his child was laid in a manger, in thy great mercy, be merciful to this, that thy handmaiden, not the infant, who has miscarried the child, who has conceived in her, forgive her. Doesn't say anything about the infant. Forgive her voluntary or involuntary offenses, and protect her from all the machinations of the devil. Heal her suffering, and in thy love for mankind, grant health and strength to her body and soul. Guard her with a radiant angel on every assault. Blah 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 blah. Thy kingdom, thou who accepts the innocence of infancy into thy kingdom, comfort thy handmaiden and bring her peace. Therefore, with fear we cry and say, look down from heaven and strengthen thy handmaiden who has miscarried the child conceived in her. Have mercy on her and bless her through the intercession of thy undefiled mother and all saints. Amen. Does that say? So the first question we have to ask ourselves, since this has to be covered for the millionth time, does that say anything about forgive the child of the sin that the child has? No. It says, O thou, speaking of God, who accepts the innocence of infancy into thy kingdom. Now this goes into the verses that talk about let the little ones come unto me. Do thou the same, Lord and God, who on that day will give no cause to mourn the loss of a child, be present with us this day as we gather with sadness to seek thy comfort and mourn the loss of this child, known to thy handmaiden who carried him or her, or his or her father, who generated him or her, to us. Thy faithful people thou hast spoken by thy prophet Jeremiah, before I formed you, I knew you, blah, blah, blah. O God of compassion, consolation of the afflicted, thou knowest the name and age of every person, even from his or her mother's womb, knowing the depths of our hearts, accept the sorrow as we grieve the loss of this child, and comfort us with the promise of the joy of thy eternal kingdom. Why should we be joyous? Why should we be joyous if the infant is necessarily damned? Augustine, listen, Avriel, Augustine taught that infants are in a lower part of hell. They are by necessity damned. So what are they damned for? He obviously believes they are damned in Adam because he believes in Mathemata. This is just not even controversial. Okay? This is basic stuff from Augustine. Help us grow in confidence in thy sustaining presence. And then he goes into more detail there. Okay. O merciful Lord, fall down before thy great inscrutable providence. This is both from mercy, thou lovest more, blah, blah, blah. Thy holy will and inscrutable ways. We offer ourselves in thee sacrifice. O Lord, help our unbelief. Let us not fall into blah, blah, blah. Forgive our transgressions, voluntary and involuntary. Then, pause. New statement. Receive the infant name into thy kingdom, and have mercy on us through the mercy and compassion and love of mankind, only begotten Son, with whom thou hast blessed, together with thine all holy and life-giving Spirit, now and forever unto the ages of ages. Amen. Okay. The dismissal is very important. Hold on, guys. You might have to restart. Craig Truglia's article. Father Ron, how are you doing, bro? Father, I hope you're doing well. Actually, perfect timing, Father Ron. Maybe you can talk to Chief Among Sinners, and he can ask you the question about baptized infants or miscarried infants. I'm reading him the OCA prayer service for miscarried infants to show that we don't hold that infants are by necessity damned, because that's what so many of these people are pushing. And so I'm going to continue to read this here. The priests, they continue on and they say, Christ our true God, exalted and blessed now and for the ages of ages. And then it says, more honorable, okay. Glory to God. And then it says, may Christ our true God, through the prayers of his most pure mother, of the glorious and all laudable apostles, of Saint, name the patron of the unbaptized infant. Of Saint, name whose memory be celebrate on this day, on the holy and righteous ancestors of God, Joachim and Anam, of all the saints, have mercy on us and have us good, and for he is good and loveth mankind. Then the priest continues, O Lord, who guards thy children in this life and prepares those who have departed from us in their innocence, in a haven in the radiant angelical realm in the heavenly mansions, do thou the same, Master Christ our God, receive in peace the soul of this child. Is this child baptized? It just says right here, unbaptized. Just says it right here, unbaptized. So clearly we don't condemn every child that is unbaptized. Chief of sinners, I hope that, chiefs among us singers, I hope that helps. We'll finish this real quick because there's only two more things that I want to emphasize here. Christ our God, receive the soul of the child, for thou hast said, let the children come to me, and do not hinder them, for such belongs the kingdom of heaven. For unto these do the glory, the honor, and together with thy Father and everlasting all good and life-forgiving spirits, now and forever, unto the ages of ages. I don't know how you do this, Father Ron. I don't know how clergy do this, because my tongue trips so much on this. Yes, and I've actually spoken to my bishop, Averill, and my bishop has said that the church does not presume that infants are in hell. And then it says here, memory eternal, memory eternal, memory eternal. Her soul shall dwell with the blessed. And by the way, Averill, I don't want you to contradict me again. If you have a problem with this prayer service, take it up with the OCA. And not just the OCA, because this same prayer service for miscarried infants is used with the Georgians, confirmed it with a Georgian. I've confirmed it with a Serbian priest. I've confirmed it with a Greek priest. And I've confirmed it with a Russian priest. So you can take it up with those 5 jurisdictions. So if you really want to die on the hill that infants must be baptized, and if they are not baptized, what are you suggesting? If the infant is not baptized, if they're miscarried, so they never had the opportunity to be baptized, they never had that opportunity, what is the presupposition? The presupposition is then what? They are in hell. Is that what your position is? Your position is that they must be baptized to be in hell. Yes or no? So what I'm going to do, since they want to have this fight again for the millionth time, okay. There you go, guys. There is the X space pin. Father Ron, if you are available, you're more than welcome to hop in. We would love to have you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of these problems that we have with a lot of these Latinizer dorks. And share the X space. There we go. In the X space, I shared it above. You can see it. You're more than welcome to call into the X space if you wish to discuss these things. Children are on their way to Christ unless someone stops them, as Adam and Eve were until the serpent. Well, I would say that is there's more nuance to it than that, because clearly infants need baptism because there are they suffer from the consequences of sin. They will and deal with those problems. So I think that is clearly something there. Let me get this invite to speak. There we go. Oh, requested. Hold on. Approve. See, guys, how long of a delay there is? It's crazy, isn't it? It'll be a good chance to ask your questions, guys. It might be a delay. Hold on. Let me try and request again, Father Ron. Invite. I hate how slow. You probably are going to want to at least mute YouTube. At least mute it. If you want to look at the chat, you can have it open. But you might want to at least mute YouTube. Invite to speak. Oh, there we go.
Hello.
I can hear you. How are you, Father Ron?
Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Father Ron? Let me.
Yes, but I think there is a delay.
Okay. Is that?
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay. It was the wrong mic I was using, unfortunately.
Hello.
How are you doing, Father Ron? I saw your chat with Cleve went very well. Everyone seemed to really like it.
Yeah. Seems to have, as I like to say, it seems to have got legs.
Yes. Somebody asked right away off the bat, Pufferfish said, "How can we financially support your online ministry?"
I've never been asked that before, to be honest with you. So, in fact, I've seen this Pufferfish based. It says by one of your moderators, correct?
Yes. He's a moderator in like 2 or 3 different Orthodox channels.
Okay.
So you might recognize him from like Cleve or Alex Soren or some of the other guys.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I have to get back to you on that. I'm not doing this for money per se. But of course, if somebody wanted to donate to me, I'd be happy to take it. But I don't think I'm there yet. I just think that if I could hold that in abeyance for now, I think that would be best.
Well, I think the easiest way, Puffer, is just let people know that his channel exists. That's half the battle. Is just, letting people know that it actually is there. Our clergy, a lot of clergy, it takes a while for them to get noticed, and there's some really great content online from a lot of great clergy that just doesn't get really shared the way it should, in my opinion. So I think that's probably the easiest way to help in the meantime. So, Father Ron, what time is it over there? Must be getting a little bit late, right? Maybe 9 p.m.
It's 7:10 p.m. here.
Ah, okay. Oh, so you must be like Pacific time?
Mountain Standard Time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm used to Central and Eastern. Those are the only 2 time zones that I really ever frequent, besides Korea. Yeah. So.
Right.
Yeah. So, that's great. So I think because I have you calling in, Father, this is an issue that gets brought up like ad nauseum all the time. And it is really it causes a lot of problems for a lot of people coming into the church because they hear things from like the Confession of Disitheus, right? And they'll say, well, it says here that infants must be baptized, otherwise they will be held accountable, right? Because even infants must be baptized to enter into paradise, etc., etc. And then people will ask,
sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, who said that? Sorry again.
Confession of Disitheus, Canon 16, I believe it is.
And when was that? I'm not well versed in these things.
Council of Jerusalem, 1672. I think it's Pan-Orthodox
yeah.
Correct. Yes, and I always say, well, there's two things that people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's always two things that you have to keep in mind when you're Orthodox. One, a canon is not necessarily trying to be an exhaustive treatise of every like possible exception or like nuance in the theology per se, right? It's meant to give the normative understanding of these things, right? And normatively, yes, you should baptize infants because when they grow up, they will commit sins, right? And there is an expectation of that. But it's not necessarily that the infants themselves are sinful in the sense that they have committed sin that they are condemnable for, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, my read on this may not seem I'll just give you my read. How about that?
Sure. Yeah.
I've noticed that if you compare, this is in my local area. So so when I say local area, I mean I'm talking like a Canadian, and I'm a North American, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I've just noticed that if I could make a general statement about the Slavic churches, they tend to be much more inclined to baptize their children very early. And I baptized our own daughters very early. I mean, we were going to travel, and we baptized my first daughter at 5 weeks old. But I noticed, I'm in the Greek Archdiocese now, I noticed that there's not as much of a concern to baptize children early in the Greek church. Just a different outlook, I think. I mean, but what I'm talking about, though, is more orthopraxy, right?
Yeah.
Not so much orthodoxy. But I would like to see if I can look up this canon, because canons are medicine, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to add something about canons that you already said, and that is it is normative. But I'm going to say dare I say, in many cases at that moment, it depends on the canon, because a lot of the canons are no longer applicable from the ancient world. Right. So they give guidelines under the circumstances, let's put it that way. And some of them do carry through the centuries, but some of them don't. And in this case, that's why I'd like to look at it. Just you've kind of read it to me.
Decree 16, if you type in the Confession of Disitheus on Google, it pops up. I found a decent website that has it. I don't know if it's translated accurately, because one of the things that I know is a major issue with the confession that has been confirmed to me by multiple clergy is that multiple different translations and versions were like used.
Yeah. So which decree? Sorry.
Decree 16.
16. Because what I could do, if I could find it in Greek, if I can. I see a lot of these are in English.
Most of them are in English that I've seen, and even the ones in Russian. There were 2 or 3 different versions of the Russian one that were accepted at the time. And so even though it's a pan-Orthodox synod, the question of which version do we accept is very much up in the air from my understanding. So, which is why it doesn't hold the same weight as an ecumenical council. I mean, I think.
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't. Yeah, and it was never declared to be such.
Yeah.
I mean, you can practically have the whole church gather about something, but I mean, these are not, I'm going to say, at the level of dogma, and I think that would be the difference. This is more. So I just found this. I didn't realize there were 3 different versions.
Yeah, there was like 2 or 3. I know for sure. Father John Whiteford actually talked about this years ago. About it, and I do remember very distinctly him mentioning that.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. So I see the one I have, which is from like crivoice.org. I don't know what that is, but I'm looking at it. Says here, and therefore baptism is necessary even for infants, since they are also subject to original sin. Now, already that's Western lingo.
Yeah.
Right? We don't use that lingo, and so that could mean one of two things. I'd like to know if this is a what the underlying Greek. Most probably, it was written in Greek.
Most probably,
or maybe
I think it was the council.
or maybe
it was Jerusalem, and I think Dositheus was a bishop in Antioch, or it was Constantinople. So it would have probably been Greek. Most likely.
That's my guess, and I would like to see it in Greek. And the reason is because, I mean, I've been burned more than once where English translators don't
do a good job.
Render.
Yeah.
And that could trip people up because they're reading it in English, and you go to the Greek and it's not that at all. I've seen that a number of times.
Yeah.
But mostly with the New Testament, but not stuff like this. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, if this is actually the way it's translated, then I would say, okay, well, that's Western lingo. But that's not the first time that's happened in the church.
Well, it was,
right?
and it was intentionally using what another thing people forget. It was intentionally using Western lingo because it was meant to respond to Calvinism. Like the Confession of Dositheus was specifically the decrees in it were specifically meant to respond to Calvinism. And that's what people don't realize, is that they were using a lot of Western terms that come with a lot of Western baggage.
You're right.
It's very
I agree with
easy
you.
to read Western theology into that, right? And I think that's the biggest problem too.
But no, I agree with that. But you see how things can cascade, right?
Yes.
So that's how I'm looking at it, is that, okay, finally, I mean, that's why I really think I've been more and more doing this almost as a default, that anytime somebody like right now I'm presented with something in English, I actually want to look at the Greek.
Or the Russian, or the church, and people forget this too, that even the 16th and 1700s for Russia, the Russian language was very different than modern Russian. So when people
absolutely,
and it's kind of like comparing Shakespearean English to modern day English, it's very different. And so I think that's another thing that people just underestimate, is that even when you try and translate from Old Russian, Old Church Slavonic, which was given to them by Greeks, right? Like the Church Slavonic was given to them by Greeks. So even then, by proxy, knowing the Greek is going to help you understand some of the roots of the Cyrillic and the Church Slavonic.
Yes. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, definitely.
Good.
So,
yeah.
But then the question is, and then this is where I kind of came in the middle here. Is there, I guess I missed what the main question is, because I'm kind of looking at your chat and not really sure what
the concern that people have is that the common refrain that people have when they appeal to the confession or appeal to these things is they say baptism is necessary, and we all agree that baptism is necessary. But then they ask, so the person's concern was their mother just had a miscarriage, so Lord have mercy. And obviously, by necessity, a miscarried infant is not baptized. And so the question comes, what is the Orthodox Church's, there isn't necessarily a formal stance from what I can find where they say with specificity, but they say generally, what is the position of the Orthodox Church's view on what happens to unbaptized infants? Are they damned? Because there are some people, when they read St. Augustine, who says that they will suffer in a very outermost layer of hell, and it's actually quite nice. Actually, it's kind of like a hot tub. It's not really that bad. It's still separation from God, but it's kind of like chill, right? That's what some people say, which is of course ridiculous. And who cares how far the separation is? The separation is still there, right? It's still anti-theosis, right? In the eschaton, right? Who cares, right? At the end of the day, they're still not experiencing theosis. They're still not experiencing God's bliss, and etc., right? And then there are people that say, well, no, they're in paradise to some capacity. We just don't know the exact way God, we don't know exactly how God, it's going to look for them. and it's not revealed to us. And I think that's the fair position that the Orthodox Church Fathers have, which is, from my understanding, is that we don't really speculate on what it's going to look like or how they're going to experience the eschaton. We just know that they are in God's presence and in God's mercy. And that's typically
Yes.
our position.
Yes, but it is not a theological issue, it's a pastoral issue.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're talking about, and why when I did see you read those prayers, and you can see that the recipient of, so how do I say this, that the why we even talk about this other than, you know, a theological statement that we might make, is that it's because we want to be pastoral to these mothers who have either lost babies through miscarriage. And believe me, we have a lot of stuff like that, which is very comforting. You know, I mean, no one's going to believe for a second. I mean, even, how do I say this? Even on the ground, like, so to speak, that there's this God waiting behind. Imagine this God is waiting behind, you know, a judge's bench with a gavel, and he's just waiting for these baptized infants to come up to him, and he's just going to toss them. Like, really? I mean, really? Nobody can even accept that, even as a concept. Doesn't make sense. So therefore, that's why we don't say, well, we don't have this Western view, you know, specifically. And in fact, I would even say we don't even get into much, like some of this discussion you and I are having right now about this, and your chat is in very much theologomena in a sense, right? Because I mean, was it ever stated one way or another? No, but I mean, we base it on our experience as Christians, as through the saints, through the lives of the saints, and what they've given us and provided for us, and therefore that's why I say it's the overweight is on the pastoral issue, not a theological issue.
Yeah, and I think that's typically how I've always viewed it. Like I've people that it's like they want to, and I think the reason they go to bat for the necessity of unbaptized infants being damned is because they feel like they're defending Saint Augustine and his understanding of sin and the fall of mankind, and so they want to defend it as Orthodox, and so by proxy, if they have to defend this view as well, like, so they have to defend the totality of it rather than understand that this is pastoral and that the church takes a very nuanced and pastoral approach to these things. I can tell you this much. Somebody went over and told my wife, who's had a miscarriage herself, if someone told my wife that oh, well, sorry, your unbaptized child is not in heaven, my wife, like, one, that devastate her. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you're gonna be lucky not to get hit. like you say,
Right.
like a lot of these people are saying this in a vacuum where they don't have to live with the consequences of their past, like, of what they're saying. It's theology without heart, I guess. It's like, it's just like it's like very scholastic, right? It's like academic, and
Yes.
not. Does that make sense what I'm saying, Father Ron?
Well, yes, it does, because I'm so that actually is a kernel of a very large, I'm going to say a very good way of looking at the totality of Scripture, for example. And that is that ultimately it's pastoral, right? So Scripture is not a theology textbook. It's I'm going to say, first and foremost, a pastoral textbook. It's God speaking to us, asking us, sharing his will with us, so that we can come closer to him, become authentically human, right? Which is much different than a courtroom scene where we're trying to explain ourselves, right? It's different. So if we look at it as a pastoral book that is there to, I mean, I remember a professor of mine, and I can't not disagree with him, who used to chastise priests when they got really heavy on some things about, living the Christian life. And he said, just don't ever forget, these people work all week and they need to come to church and be comforted, right? Like, they're out there slaving away, and they don't need more and more burdens put on them. They need to be comforted. But that's what the gospel does, right? Yes, it has demands, right? It does. But that demand is supposed to lighten our yoke, because if we follow the gospel, it does lighten our yoke.
Yeah, I think it was it Metropolitan Tikhon who was recently on Cleave to Antiquity, and he was talking about despondency and things like that, and he was like, someone asked him a question in the Q&A portion about what are good things to read and what are good things to avoid, and he said don't read anything that's meant for monastics, at least initially, without guidance,
Yeah,
because he says
that was
a lot of
Metropolitan
people.
Jonah.
I can't remember what the material was that was even referenced at the time, but I remember I want to say it was the Sonata. Was it the Sonaticon or was it the
Something like that? But it's basically a book like strictly for monastics. But these things are made available now. Like 30 years ago, I mean, 30. Let's make it 35 now. The Philokalia was widely available in English.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It suddenly became what, and so you got a bunch of people, and my wife is one of them who had read some of this, and she says, I got depressed, because you feel that who can live up to this, right? And so but that's different. So it's different. It's different being a mess hall cook than it is to be a frontline soldier, right? And the demands are different, right?
It was Metropolitan Jonah. I'm sorry. OCA.
Jonah, yes, you're correct.
Not Tikhon. I don't know why I was thinking Tikhon. Why was I thinking Tikhon? I don't know.
He's the Metropolitan he's the Metropolitan of the OCA right now.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. So I'm always getting so mixed up with all these. Yeah, so that's and I think that's the one thing that when I was coming into Orthodoxy, I grew up Reformed. I don't know if you have a lot of experience with Reformed theology, but Reformed theology is very, very much A plus A plus B equals C style theology. Like there is this kind of like almost robotic way. Like salvation is very robotic. There is this it's algorithmic, mathematical, and Orthodoxy spoke to me in a way that it approaches the thing in a medicinal, more human sense. These questions.
Yes, because the goal is to make you authentically human, right? Because I'm not going to say we're inhuman, but we are reared human beings, right? And I'm going to say the same thing about being a Christian. We are reared being a Christian. So that requires instruction, et cetera, et cetera. But if we're properly reared, we live a good life. We live an authentic life. And the life of Christ is that he can, well, just look at him. I mean, he's completely threatened all the time, and he just walks through a crowd completely unfazed, right? Well, is that not an authentic human being? That even his enemies have difficulty attacking him?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, because it's kind of one of those things where Craig Truglia, with his recent video that he did on the economic atonement, because that's another thing that has been going on recently, is a lot of people debating different understandings of the atonement. And in particular, there's a strain of allegedly, no one knows for sure, but allegedly Orthodox individuals who very much push penal substitutionary atonement. And Craig Truglia came out and said, listen, I don't even want to hear that term anymore because it has so much baggage, it has so many issues, there's so many different things that come with it, because it's a uniquely Reformed doctrine. It's a uniquely Calvinist doctrine, frankly, that was developed specifically after Anselm's satisfaction theory, right? And so the real question is not whether or not it's not whether or not we hold to certain penal understandings of the atonement or anything like that. The question is, what is the emphasis the Orthodox Church puts on the atonement? And I think the emphasis is exactly what you said, which is there's many different things, but I think one of them is moral exemplar, right? Christ being the object in which we are after. He is the goal, right? Because what does even St. Paul say, right? St. Paul says, as I go after Christ, go after me, right? Like follow me as I follow Christ.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said about that. This is part of the reason why veneration of the saints makes so much sense, in my opinion.
Now, while we're talking here, by the way,
what's up?
I just been looking up the word they use in Greek for. There's two different words in the New Testament. One is specific to infant, and that is, I just had it here. It is sorry, I have to look it up again. Well, paidon or paidos is a little child, but it can also mean infant. So now in Luke 18, it's interesting. It says they were bringing even infants, which is a different word. I can look it up later, that they might touch them. And then Jesus said, let the children come to me and do not hinder them, for to such belong the kingdom of God. And then he says, truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a paidon, shall not enter it, which can mean also infant or little child. So you see that, and this is so how it's happening here is I'm looking at the structure of the text. It starts with infant, it's clarified to children, and then it finally ends at a little child. So it's interesting. The movement here is you have almost a span that's given. It starts as infant, it goes to children, and then it ends in the middle textually.
Yeah.
That, in other words, it can mean either a small child or an infant.
Yeah, and I think I think I've heard that before, and I'm pretty sure that makes a lot of sense. You would think that if they didn't intend it to mean infant, they would have clarified. Like it's you know what I mean? They would have been more they would have used a more specific word, because there are more specific words in Greek for child, for example.
Yeah, but in this instance, they use all three. That's what's kind of neat to me is I'm gonna Luke 18:15. Like I'm gonna just look at the three words. So starting in 15, it says infants, which is a briefus, okay. And then in 16 it says the children, paidia. So paidia is again, actually that's the same word. You have a little child or infant, it all means the same thing. So it's a more inclusive term. So I like the way the text plays out. You start with infants, and then you have a broader term that includes infants, right? So they're bringing him infants, but he says, bring them all to me, in other words, infants and little children, in the word paidos. And he says it twice. I just find that, I mean, I'm looking at how the text is sort of rolling out, and I find that fascinating, actually. He's being very inclusive. So he it's, if you read it in English, it says, let the little children come to me, and you may think of a toddler, but the truth is that's inclusive of infants, that word. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I didn't until recently. But by the way, Avril, I know you want to request to speak or ask a question and stuff. I keep on sending you a request. I don't know if it's working. And Paisios sent $10. I'm going to quickly get to that, Father. Nicholai, today's the 17th anniversary of the election of Patriarch Kirill to the patriarchal seat of Russia. What is your favorite thing about Patriarch Kirill over the last 17 years? I would say, listen, not to get into like church politics or anything like that, because I typically find it very boring. My biggest appreciation for Patriarch Kirill is how much effort he's put into missionary evangelism, not just of the Russian people to re-evangelize them since the fall of Soviet Union, but in particular how much effort and time he puts into evangelizing around the world. There are even if it can step on toes, everyone here can acknowledge their toes can get stepped on. But in Southeast Asia, they've had huge progress being made in Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos. The very first Orthodox church ever built in Laos within the last 2 years by the Russians. Thailand has at least 13 or 14 parishes now, and that's in the last 15 years, 10, 20 years. Like, that's not a long time. Here in Korea, we've opened 3 new parishes, or I should say chapels, here in Korea. And I just that's my biggest thing that I really appreciate about him. I think that Metropolitan Saba, his recent speech about the age of evangelism is upon us. I think that is 100% inaccurate. is 100% accurate. And so that's what I would say in regards to that. Abby, if you have any questions towards Father Ron, since you have him here, you can't ask a better person to ask about that or ask about any of this kind of stuff. Like I said before, my position is simply what the Orthodox Study Bible says. So,
can you hear me?
Go ahead, speak.
All right, cool. Yeah. So I think I want to make it clear that I'm not like some crazy kooky Latinizer who thinks that all babies are damned or something insane like that. I know that's a dumb binary opinion that people shouldn't hold. I think my question is just more so, and this has actually been, I wasn't raised believing in original sin. I grew up Pentecostal. We didn't believe in that. But I was always just, the whole idea of salvation is theosis, unification with God, and baptism being what starts that. My question just then became, when I started my conversion, was, well, are babies born unified with God? And if they're not, then what does that seem to indicate, right? Because if they need to be baptized to be unified, there seems to at least be an implication that if they were to die, it wouldn't by fiat unify them, right? Does that make sense? Does that position kind of seem consistent?
I can understand the question. Father Ron, do you have any maybe probing questions before we get into it, or?
I did about a second ago, but I promptly forgot. So keep talking, it'll come to me.
Okay. I guess my initial response is that nothing is by fiat. Right? No one's joined to God by fiat. Baptism doesn't join you to God by fiat either. It is persistence in him, right? It's continuing to orient yourself in him. Baptism is the means in which God purifies, illuminates us, and cleans our nous, and starts a process of life in him, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the only means in which God uses to bring people into his kingdom, because I can give you examples of many saints that were not baptized. I'll give you another example.
Right.
The church gives full funeral rites, and Father Ron would know this because I'm sure he's performed more than his fair share of funerals over the years. The church performs full funeral rites to catechumen, who by necessity are not baptized. So clearly God there's a more nuanced view, and we understand that God is not like a how do you say a ledger, and that typically the normative means in which God joins people into his kingdom is not something that God is bound to. It's something that we are bound to because God knows that we need that structure to live by, right? If he just says, you can just live how you want, and some of you will conform yourself to me and some of you won't, good luck, like we're kind of we probably all screwed, right? So I think that's kind of my position, is that God gives us normative means in which that he joins people to his church, and that God will join people extra normatively all the time. And we see this with how we treat catechumen. And I would also say this, if there was how do you say this? If there was this intense, I don't know why your name, by the way, keeps on changing back and forth between your actual name.
It's doxing me, dude.
It's totally doxing you. But anyways, it keeps on flipping for me. I don't know why it does that. But I think that one thing you have to also kind of keep in mind is that praxis matters, and Father Ron maybe can comment on this as well. Praxis matters, and our theology is reflected in praxis in the Orthodox Church. And if we actually believed that there was a chance that unbaptized infants could potentially spend eternity in hell, or spend or even just suffer in hell at all, even if it's for a short period of time, or no matter what your view is, if we think there is a chance that they could essentially go without be illuminated or being able to participate in theosis in the eschaton or whatever it is, right? Why would we not baptize infants the moment they come out of the woman's womb? The moment, why wouldn't we have a priest in the operating room, right? ready to catch the baby and immediately bring them over to a baptismal font. Because that's how serious an urgency, how much of a serious urgency there would be if we took it in a sort of, forgive me for this this term, but like this autistic way of looking at it, right? But the church's praxis
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
reflect that. In
Well,
fact, like
that,
Father Ron
but that's
talked
the
about, real quick, I'll just finish with this. Like Father Ron
yeah,
talked
my
about at the
bad.
beginning, you know, some jurisdictions we wait upwards to, like, I've seen some jurisdictions say they have to wait up to 6 months because of queue times, because maybe the priest is busy, you know, and all these things. But that wouldn't be the case if we felt like it was like literally their soul is on the line, right? That's my position.
Right. But I think you could also argue that that comes with the modern comforts of the industrial world where most kids aren't dying young. There have been times in history. Now, I couldn't give you the specifics. I've read about it, but it was a while ago when I was interested in this topic. I just kind of stopped after, you know, probably some 6 months ago, where certain areas did baptize the baby pretty much outside the womb, right? Like they would want it
Yeah,
first
but where
couple days.
the problem is that you have to show for the church. We're not interested in one-off or examples. We're interested in continuity, right? The church
Right,
is
but then
theanthropic.
that's but there are some places that do it on the 8th day. There's because
Yeah,
of,
but why
Christ
even
circumcision
the
happened.
question
There's some
still
places that do it on
stands.
the 40th day because that's when he was dedicated in the temple. The thing is that while praxis may differ between jurisdictions, I think that the question that needs to be asked is not even whether it's not even that if you're baptized on earth, are you therefore right, how are you joined to the church? Where I have a prayer book. Now, you could argue that ancient faith is super liberal and evil, but it would be weird if the super liberal place took a hard stance on baptism, not right, babies not being saved like that. That's just if they're liberal, that would be an odd thing to give way to. Um, there's prayers in the ancient faith prayer book, which I got from my parish, right? They right. That's like, um, and it specifically asks for babies to be baptized posthumously by God. The understanding is not that they're never going to be baptized, it's that God could, in his mercy, have the wisdom to baptize them into the church, and it's true baptism, it's real baptism, right? In the same way that in the, what's it called? The Evergetinos, there's the story of the thief who, like, goes to mug the monk. He then says, you know, "I've killed 99 people, I'm gonna do whatever, I'm gonna kill you too, so I can get to this thing." And then the guy's like, "Well, can you at least go get me a drink of water from that brook?" And then he drowns and then comes back, and then God tells the monk that he was baptized, right? God can do those things. That's totally possible. I think where it's just simply that babies aren't born connected to God. And while you could say, okay, you know, it's not by fiat. Baptism is by nature being unified to Christ. Christ is God. So therefore unified to God. That's how you partake in the divine nature. That's how you start it. That's not to say that God can't have extra normative means. We all understand that. But if babies are born separate from God, it's simply that he's not held to a standard where he has to save them. It's not that he won't or can't or that he's a legalist about it, but that, I mean, even St. Augustine, he didn't teach that it was personal guilt, right? He uses a different term. He doesn't use culpa. He uses reatus, right? It's a different thing. He simply teaches that when they die, they just don't have the eyes to see God, right? Because it's through baptism that one is enlightened. And that's the position. It's simply that while they're in a better place than they would have been, let's say they, you know, even sinned once, and they're about as close to heaven as you can get, right on the cusp. It's not quite so like evil and torturous.
Well,
You know,
before we
like
get too in the weeds, Father Ron, do you have any thoughts initially?
Just a couple. I consider catechumenate to be a rank in the church. And I tell my catechumens that you're in the rank of the catechumenate. So that's almost like you're inside the building. I mean, literally and figuratively, you're in the church. I'm going to say it's a rank of instruction, but it's still considered a rank. That's the way I look at it. And so maybe that explains why a catechumen would get a full funeral. But the other thing is that, okay, so if I'm asking Avi here, if it's the case that an infant is, I think you separated from God, the first verse that came to my mind was St. Paul when he's talking to the Athenians, when he said, in him, in God, we, how does it go? In him we move and have our being, live and move and have our being. So you know, we separate these things out in little nice parcel categories, but ultimately, life is from God. And the other thing is that if the mother is a member of the church, and you know, and by the way, and that's what it means to be in Christ. I mean, it's not that it's not like us and somehow it's somewhere in the ether. It's we're members of the church. So if the mother is a member of the church and okay, if she has a baby and she loses it, well, she was in the church, right? But let's say there's a child, okay, you know, a toddler, for example, has been baptized. Well, but they're also being washed by the liturgy, okay? They're also, you know, if they're not baptized, maybe they're coming up and having the priest touch their head with a chalice, which is what I do sometimes. You know, there's lots of ways that you can have that washing, because washing is not just the water. I did a video that said the baptism actually is the beginning of washing. It is the inaugural washing for sure. And I'm not going to take anything away from that. But after that, that's why I said there's the word of baptism. When I say word, the logos of baptism, right? That means that's the service. That's everything that's said in the service, the exorcism of the water, the exorcism of the candidate, all that's the logos of the baptism. But the rhema, the utterances of the baptism, continues for the rest of your life, because it's the words of the liturgy and the scriptures and all the divine services that we go to that are the perpetual washing of baptism, I would argue. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So are you, when you say all right, this is actually just interesting. You said the logos of baptism. Is that the word used in Ephesians 5 when it says the washing of the water by the word, or is that rhema?
That one is I'm on Ephesians 5. I'll look it up right
Ephesians
now
5,
because yeah, you know what? I think that I'm going to look because I think I used this in my video. Ephesians 5. What verse is that? If you have it.
I believe it's verses 24 through 26.
Okay, I'm going to look because I think this is what I was referring to when I did this video on this. 24. Okay, I don't think that's it. Second, you know what? I'll just look it up in English. That was so. What was the verse again? So everybody, I'm not good at chapter and verse. What was the verse again? Just give me a few words.
He says the washing of the water of the word. It's Ephesians 5:26. Yeah.
5:26. Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, no, this is rhema. This is the utterance. This is what I was talking about. That's the verse I used, because you notice it's utterances, which is a continual word, versus a logos, which is more, I'm going to say, static, right? It's more self-enclosed, but utterances implies an ongoing speaking, right? So, and you'll notice the word rhema is used like in John 6, for example, and other places. And then of course in John 6, you also have logos, but there's a difference. And when I looked at this verse, I think actually it's coming back to me now. It's pretty bad, isn't it? That I just did this video last week and I've already forgotten. So pathetic. But I just realized, yeah, when I was reading this in Greek and I saw rhema, I thought, oh, well, isn't that interesting? Because it's the washing of water by the utterances, right? So it's not even though it's a single point in time that we're baptized, I'm going to argue that why that's there and not logos, if you want to put it that way, is because we're continually washed throughout our life by the word of the scriptures, of the divine liturgy, of all this, everything that's embedded in liturgical worship of the church. That's the utterances that wash us.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really good.
Does it? Because it's the way I read it. Like, it's the way I read it. But I don't know if I'm right. I mean, I put it to you guys. I mean, that's how I read it, because I fully expected, like when you read it in English, you think, oh, it's going to say logos. And then, whoa, just a second. It's not.
Well, I think
that's different.
I think that it again, I think it follows with the presuppositions of orthodoxy, which is that it is the life of the church is illuminating ourselves. Like our nous is being washed through theosis, through participation in the sacraments, not just baptism, but all the sacraments. And another thing that I think needs to be remembered is that the benefits of baptism are counted as, I can't remember now off the top. Let me try and remind myself. I think I have it pulled up here. Let me.
I mean, while you're doing that, that's kind of what I meant, though, right? It's not just like don't forget every sacrament. I mean, okay, that's why I like to describe it this way. What would the sacrament be except without the words, right? I mean, if you film a baptism or even a divine liturgy and you shut off the sound, none of it makes sense until you add the words, right? So the word and the spirit always go together, always, right? And so, yeah, you're right. Nicholai, it's all of it. So the divine liturgy, all the sacraments, all that involves the word of the gospel, and we use the gospel book too in practically every sacrament. I'm trying to think if there's one that we don't. I think the gospel books are used in every sacrament.
Yes.
So anyway.
I have it here. So
Yeah,
I found it. It says here, baptismal catechist, he's addressing neophytes. St. John Chrysostom says, you see how many are the benefits of baptism, and some think its heavenly grace consists only in the remission of sins, but we have enumerated 10 honors it bestows. For this reason, we baptize even infants, though they are not defiled with sin, so that there may be given to them holiness, righteousness, adoption, inheritance, brotherhood with Christ, and that they may even be members of him. And I think the emphasis is that we don't always just baptize for one reason. Baptism has many, many things that comes into it. There are many honors and benefits of baptism. Just like there are many benefits to the Eucharist, that are some that we probably are incountable, right? We like the Father Ron would know this. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we have like, it's the medicine of immortality is like one of the words that we use to describe the Eucharist. We have at least 4 or 5 other ones that I probably could name off my head if I had it in front of me. I'm more familiar with the Russian actually and the Korean parts of the liturgy, so I always forget the English translations. But we like all the sacraments are viewed in this kind of holistic sense, and I think one of the reasons we often forget, and I don't say this like tongue in cheek towards anyone, is that we're not Gnostic. Like our flesh is actually being deified in a sense as well.
Right. I mean, because Christ's flesh was deified.
Yes.
I mean, I think my even with that, my contention though with that John Chrysostom quote though is that he talks about specifically that baptism brings upon the person the honors of unity with Christ and brotherhood with Christ.
Sure.
Right. Again, right. What is the kingdom of heaven?
Even though
not unity with Christ?
At the so I guess this is really what it comes down to. At the final judgment, what do the scriptures say we are being held to account for?
Our works, yeah.
Right. And so those that are condemned for what?
Well, they're condemned for their works, but that's not necessarily this is how I would see it. I don't think this would necessarily be babies being condemned. They wouldn't be tormented by their works because they never did anything bad. They just would be like they would just not see the glory. Right.
So
they wouldn't be experiencing it negatively because they have nothing. They have no conscience that needs to be cleansed.
Infants don't have a conscience?
That's not what I meant. Sorry, that's lack of clarity. Their conscience, they don't have a conscience that has been harmed per se, right? So they haven't committed sin. Therefore, their conscience does not need to be cleansed. But that does not mean that they have the eyes to see.
Well, did John the Baptist have eyes to see when he leapt in the womb with when he met Christ?
Right, but I mean, we use the whole. I mean, he still went to Hades.
Yeah, but that's kind of irrelevant.
Well, no, but that's
Everyone
the
went to
thing.
Hades.
If he
So, like,
right,
I
everyone
guess
went to Hades, right? So he didn't need to be
Hades isn't
baptized
hell, brother.
because
We're talking about the
no, I
eschaton.
know that. No, I know that, right? But what I'm saying is he didn't need to be baptized because baptism hadn't been instituted truly in the way that it would be post-resurrection.
No, but
because he died before Christ died.
That's not what we're well, okay, so are there going to be people in paradise that were not baptized?
I mean, they would be baptized after death by God himself. Joined to the church, right? Immersed into Christ. Yeah.
Being joined to the church
all
is
who,
so what you're saying is anyone who's joined to God in the eschaton is baptized by necessity, right?
Yes.
Does it explain in detail the exact means God goes about doing that for all these people?
No.
Well, okay, so I don't understand what the problem is.
My contention is merely that if we're too soft on people, right? Some people need that pastoral touch, obviously, and that grace that can be given through that the wisdom of a pastor, right, is important because God can save anyone, and therefore a child who has committed no sin, there's no reason to believe that they are by fiat damned. But
that's the position that a lot of these guys hold. That's the whole that's why this is even a controversial problem with a lot of people, is that they do hold to that, a lot of these goobers.
But that's not even like, right, let's bring up Michael Witkoff's book. I've read the book. He doesn't even hold to that it's by fiat they're damned.
There's all sorts of problems with his book outside of that. You just go watch or read or ask. You can even just go and ask Perry Robinson in his review of a lot of this stuff. Michael gets basic things wrong. He doesn't even know the Greek, which, as Father Wrong and I have discussed in before you jumped in, can bring all sorts of baggage and issues. And I have a problem with any layperson writing a book that's claiming to do on the behalf of the entire Orthodox Church, who didn't get it reviewed by a clergy, didn't get it reviewed by a bishop, and doesn't even allow people to know who is his priest over him. Like, who is his priest, so that we can hold him to his words accountable. For example, people can know, if you want to go and talk to my priest, it's Father Paul Che, or you can also talk to Father Paul Kong here in Korea. And my bishop, I'm under the Moscow Patriarchate, so there is accountability there. I have a big problem with people with lack of accountability. So when people mention, oh, Michael Witkoff's book, I don't care about his book. Right? Frankly, Father Stephen DeYoung is far more of an authority and far more of an expert. And I'm for sure Father Ron, I don't know if you've read some of Father Stephen DeYoung's books, but Father Stephen DeYoung's books and his breakdown of the Old Testament scriptures clearly show a nuance on the position that is not quite what a lot of these guys are trying to push. And essentially what they're trying to push is they're trying to say that there's no delineation between Augustinian original sin, as understood in the West, and the Orthodox view, which is just abjectly false.
Right. So, but then my question is simply, okay, well, I have read all of Father Stephen DeYoung's books. I consume his media en masse, because who wouldn't?
Yeah,
He's Father Stephen DeYoung. But even the points that he was making on his Q&A streams about Augustine, he said that Augustine's view of original sin was misunderstood by the Latin West, right? So there are Latinizers who take it and they go too far. I don't think that Augustine is some crazy, weird, heartless heretic in this.
Well, no one holds to that. Even Father John Romanides, who is like the big bad boogeyman that everyone points to, even Father John Romanides said that that Blessed Augustine is a saint. He just simply took issue with a lot of certain, at the time, people also forget, Father John Romanides was growing up in a time, and we actually, funny enough, have Photian Schismatic in here, who is, I think, the chief, I would say he's one of the big guys that likes Father John Romanides, at least that I'm aware of on Twitter. And really what it comes down to is that people want to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want to accept the fact that, yeah, there are certain things we don't accept from Augustine. There's certain things we do, right? And that's the same with any church father. This is why we aren't papists, right? Thankfully. So,
Right.
and I
Yeah,
think
my
that's
question, right,
that's the
you brought
nuance
up
that needs to be understood. And at the end of the day, St. Augustine's a difficult person to even peg on any one issue because he wrote so
Yeah.
much, and he often contradicted himself in later things. He would say, "Ah, I don't agree. I don't actually hold that view anymore." So you can read one thing, and if you don't read it in chronological order, if you don't read all of his works in chronological order, you can quickly get lost in the sauce thinking, "Oh my gosh, what's he saying here?" And then a book later, you would be reading and be like, "What? Why is he saying this?" It's like totally different from what he was saying before. And this is, even Protestant scholars have noted this. Like, Protestant scholars have even said that St. Augustine is not always the most consistent person when it comes to this. I mean, this is not unheard of. This is not like made up. He would kidnap pagan infants and baptize them in secret, and he was told to stop. He was told not to do that. So, like, there's clearly, like, he clearly had certain biases towards certain understandings of theology that we just don't have a full understanding, which is part of the reason why just blindly accepting every dot and tittle he ever wrote can be problematic. So,
right, and in that way, Michael Wyckoff would probably be less than trustworthy because he very much idolizes St. Augustine, and so I can understand that. Right, but like Craig Trullia is a very, I would say, trustworthy source, and everybody I know who has viewed Craig Trullia also views him in that way. And he seems to fall on the babies very well could be damned part of the spectrum. If you read his articles, even his newest article that he wrote on his Orthodox Christian theology.com does seem to lay that out. Even the history of the prayers that are said in reference to children who die in the womb and things like that seem to be a newer development, right? So it's like even him, he's very scrupulous, and I think he has some of the best, some of the most, how would I say it, out of the box ways of viewing things. You get a lot of like pop apologists saying the same things, and those things that they say are correct. Orthodox pop apologetics are like the only pop apologetics that aren't annoying and bad. But like, he actually brings other things to the table, and yet he does seem to take that opinion, and I think he at least substantiates his claim pretty well. And so it's not just like Wyckoff.
Yeah, Craig is great on a lot of areas. He does a lot of scrupulous research, but he also holds to a view of church saints that I actually think is problematic, and he thinks that every church saint essentially needs to be in agreement with each other. He used to talk about this, how we can just make them all agree with each other if we do a careful reading, but sometimes they just
No, you can
don't
do
agree
that.
with you.
You can make them all agree with each other. You try hard enough. Concerning
Go
what you
ahead,
said
Fodian,
about,
thank you for. I'm sorry, there was
Yeah.
such a long delay. In like,
Yeah.
it's, I don't know why I accepted you like literally 3 minutes ago, and it's just like approving you now. So go ahead, brother.
In terms of what you said about me as the top Romanedian, that's not true. It's the Romanedian circles, they're secretive. There's a lot of them. You know. And concerning Augustine, there are a lot of really interesting things in Augustine about original sin. He's even said a lot of things. There's a lot of things in Augustine that are almost a Romanedian view of original sin. He says in one place that original sin is a disordering between the correlation of the soul and the body. So that's a very Eastern way of thinking about it, for example.
Correct.
So there's a lot you have to consider here.
Well, it's just that's exactly the point. Is that's why it's typically best, in my opinion, is like you don't go to Augustine for the dogmatic like breakdown of every like minor nuance in our theology, because it's really hard to make heads or tails of some of his positions, and what influences where, and who is he talking to in this given moment, how old is he, what has he experienced in life, things like that. Which is why I just my instinct is just to say again, if people can say this, The consequences of the fall are we who are of Adam's race are not guilty because of Adam's sin, but because of our own sin. However, because mankind fell away from God's grace through Adam's disobedience, man now has a propensity, a disposition, and inclination towards sin, because just as death entered the world through sin, now sin enters through the fear of death. I don't think if that's, that's one of 5 that you can hold to, I suppose. It's not exhaustive, but that's a generally fair reading, in my opinion, of how we understand sin. And I think far too many people want sin to be this ledger that we're born with.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a legal imputation is the thing. And I don't even think Father Stephen DeYoung even argues that St. Augustine didn't believe it was primarily legal, but that we just read classical Latin into him.
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Right.
I would agree. But
Right,
again,
but
the problem is not with the people that want to hold that Augustine had an orthodox reading of some of these things. The problem are the people that want to take Latin scholastic theology and shove it into there, right? Like, for example, taking Thomas Aquinas and saying, Aquinas is fully orthodox, actus purus, and there's people literally defending Aquinas against Palamas, right? And things like that. It's like at some point you just kind of have to roll your eyes and go, okay. Like
the thing about actus purus is it's another one of those linguistic disputes, because you can use it in Orthodox sense to describe exclusively the eternal energies, but there's no other context in which it can be used, and that's usually how it rolls. It can be borrowed for extremely specific applications that are different from how it's applied in the West, and that's how it usually rolls.
Yeah,
right.
Father Ron, no need to raise your hand. By the way, Father Ron, you can just.
I have one last thing I'd like to say, and then I need to go.
Feel free.
Can I yap a tiny bit more? Yeah. Just you mentioned some of the things that Augustine says that are just kind of weird. I was reading Justitia Dei by Alistair McGrath, and it's crazy when he talks about his view of free will. He's like, well, all people have free will. The free will is just captive. And I'm like, you're telling me that Augustine believed that you could have free will? It was just in jail. I'm like, that makes it by definition not free. It's in jail. Like, it's captive. You can't. It's so goofy. And it's like, well, you have free will. You just can't use it. And I'm like, all right, okay, that's fine. That's
well, getting. You got to remember who Alistair McGrath is. So you got to understand the paradigm they're reading these people in, right? And I think Photian makes a good point, is that a lot of these people are going to be reading things in a very, very non early church sense. They're going to be reading in a very Reformed Enlightenment sense of these things. And you got to also remember the concept of justice in of itself. So when we talk about penal language, and I'll finish off with this, and Father Ron, please go ahead. The Byzantine understanding of justice is actually different in how they understand what the law is actually doing and what the penalty and all these different things are doing versus English common law, right? In English common law, in like the medieval scholastic like understanding of law, or even the Roman Catholic understanding of law and justice and what the courts are there to do, etc., is very different. So then when you read someone like St. Augustine, who is alive in what time, 384 roughly, is that correct? I'm trying to remember. Is that correct? 384 for Augustine?
I think
roughly around that time period, right? I'm not going crazy.
Yeah. 354 to 430.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So I'm right in the center there. And I think it's important to remember that there is a very, very different way of understanding these things when you're reading it from a Byzantine legal code and a Byzantine legal mindset, or the Greek legal mindset, and the way that, I guess, the modern legal system understands law and how it developed.
Yeah.
So I think that's
That makes
important.
sense.
But Father Ron, what do you have to say?
Just to beg your indulgence, I have to leave, and with apologies for dragging everybody into my own confusion.
I don't think you dragged anybody into confusion. I think
No,
you're just fine.
you did fine, Father Ron. You're always welcome here, and thank you for taking the time.
That's what humility is. That's what humility is.
Right. Don't squash his humility.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. Have a good rest of your day/evening.
Bye, Father. All right,
Bye.
I'm also gonna go. Thanks for thanks for letting me on.
No problem. God bless you.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Yeah. I personally, I was waiting for Latinized to show up because I have questions written down.
Well,
But
I
another
was
space.
most of them. I unfortunately have. Well, I won't even say unfortunately. I just have a lot of them blocked, so probably a lot of them don't see the space. I'm like totally honest. I need to what I need to do is I need to get my buddy Tony to open it up again because he basically doesn't block anybody, and so everybody sees the space. When someone's chatting, and I'll just have him host it sometime. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 7 questions written down for you and 7 for them. So
Sure, why don't you ask me them? That'd be fun.
it'd be better if you know everyone was there. Okay, I gotta go.
Fair enough.
It's getting late.
That's fair. God bless you, and you have a wonderful day.
Same to you.
All right, folks. I'm glad that we had a chance to address that, so I'm gonna close this out. I'm gonna close that out, and I'm gonna open up this again. This is Father Ron's YouTube channel. So Father Ron's YouTube channel, Remote Orthodoxy, highly recommend everyone go check it out. He's almost to 200 subscribers, so why don't we guys give him a play here, and give his stuff a watch, especially if you like someone who's breaking down scripture, especially the Greek, and really emphasizing the way to properly approach these things. So should I read Father Romanides or not? Typically, you want to take that to your spiritual father. Father John Romanides is well regarded amongst a lot of clergy and a lot of jurisdictions. His works are written widely. So I don't see a reason why you can't. But that being said, Chief, is you probably want to start with someone more digestible, because Father John Romanides is very dense, and if you don't read him carefully, you can stumble into trouble. My biggest recommendation would be to start with someone like Father Stephen DeYoung. His books are written in a way that are very digestible and very easy to get your head around. So that's what I would recommend. With that being said, guys, it has been 3 hours 40 minutes. And so it's been a wonderful time with you guys. I'm glad Father Ron got a chance to jump in, and he kind of reaffirmed a lot of the things that I was saying. So we want to get into that at another point in time. We definitely will. God bless.